Good. So I think we're about ready, and we have hopefully some interesting times ahead, looking at very important Dharma ideas. As always, when we encounter Dharma, we find many particular technical terms which have specific meanings, and I will do my best to explain these. But if it's not clear by the end of tomorrow in the early afternoon, then you can always send in some questions and we'll look at them with the question and answer meetings. So the general title for our meeting is Love Your Mother. So we have to work out what this means. We have the mother who gave birth to us and the possibility of life. This is a woman who was also a partner and a daughter, and a worker, and many, many different things. We often have quite complicated relations with our mother. In the Mahayana Buddhism, we are concerned with emptiness or shunyata as our true mother. She is the mother of all the Buddhas. And we find our own Buddhahood or our own truth or our enlightenment through her. It is by entering into the womb of emptiness that we awaken to the truth of who we are and what this world is. In fact, of course, in Buddhism, there are many different levels of understanding. From the levels of higher Tantra and Dzogchen, we have never been apart from this mother. And she has already given birth to us without giving birth to anything. She is ceaselessly giving non-birth to us. And in this way, she is the blessing or the gift of the deconstruction of the delusion of an individual self. As many of you will know, it's a general division in Tibetan Buddhism between the vehicles or the approaches of the cause and the vehicles or approaches of the result. So we'll begin by looking a little bit at the cause. The cause means we all have the potential for awakening, but at the moment this potential is covered in various obscurations. It's hidden from us, and therefore we have to make effort to find it. And this is the basis for the metaphor of the journey. We're going towards enlightenment as if it were somewhere else. As long as we believe in the truth of our individual separate identity, this is the only possibility open to us, because we're trapped inside our sense of separation. And therefore we have to find the way towards that which is not separated. When you enrolled, you got copies of this homage to Prajnaparamita, the mother of all the Buddhas, and also to Avalokiteshvara, the father of all the Buddhas. She is the manifestation of wisdom. He is the manifestation of kindness or compassion. It is their inseparability that will guide us on the path. The mother comes first. Without emptiness, method, as compassion is also called, becomes the energy of the ego self. Of course, most sentient beings, if they have the capacity, take care of their own children and their friends and so on, they manifest some kind of care and concern. But even if it has an altruistic flavor, even if it seems to be for the other, because these people are part of my circle, my world, they're also self-referential. Sia Lama, my teacher, often said that there is no virtue in the family. That is to say, if parents feed their children and try to keep them safe, this is not a great virtue. But if you feed a stranger, if you take care of an orphan, then it becomes virtuous. And it becomes virtuous not just towards the orphan, but towards yourself. when you are truly kind to someone else, when there is no obligation or duty enforcing it, in making that action towards the other, you are stepping out of the enclosed circle of me first. Compassion, fully operational, will always help to dissolve the sense of being a separate individual self. And in parallel with this, seeing the emptiness of all things, we see that they are not divided, and through this we can experience interconnectivity. And this connectivity is the quality of kindness. So if you go fully into emptiness, you find yourself with kindness. And if you go through fully into kindness, you find yourself with emptiness. At the moment, we are caught up in mental dullness. In Buddhism, this points to our strong belief in the separate reality of the phenomena around us and of ourselves. When we see an object as existing in itself, and we see ourselves as a subject, an entity existing in itself, then of course we're called into trying to work out, where do I stand with this thing? Do I like it? Do I want it? Do I need it? Or am I a little afraid of it, or feel some dislike for it and want it to be far away? Or perhaps I'm just indifferent. I don't care. It means nothing to me. But even with this last positioning, there is still a kind of confirmation of my separate self. When we walk down the street and we take the pavement for granted, the fact that we don't pay attention to the fact that there is a pavement there, we don't say a prayer for the workers who make the pavement or the council who repair it. This frees us just to be in our own thoughts, which are confirming our own individual identity. If we can take the shape of the world for granted, then we have more time to spend on ourselves. And this is why in the Buddhist tradition, when we look at the six realms, the six possible environments in which sentient life is to be found, the texts remind us that although there is endless pleasure in some of the God realms, if you want to practice Dharma, you're better to be in a human life. Because in the human life, you get some happiness and some sorrow. You can expand on a happy day and shrink back on a sad day. And if we observe this in ourselves, it helps us to see that we are linked with the environment. Although we think of ourselves as separate and individual, we are so very sensitive that we react to the shaping of a person's face, if they smile or frown when they see us. So in this situation, we can start to see, oh, I am unreliable. I am unstable. I am not a fixed thing. I am unpredictable. Moreover, because the world is revealed to me through my own capacity for perception and interpretation, how I am influences how the world is for me. This is very helpful because at first, when we start to practice, we feel ourselves inside our skin bag looking out at the world. And the seeming solidity of the forms around us promotes the mental dullness of them existing as a barrier to our insight. So the more we see that I am actively involved in the unfolding of my experience, then we see that we are existing as a kind of relationship or conversation. So in England, the harvest for the main crops is finished, and now we have a lot of rain. So this is not so bad for the farmers. It's not great for me, because I'm not a farmer. So the value of the rain is not something neutral. And we see this in politics, in economics, in every part of our life. Every form is interpreted, which means I am always part of the story. How I look, how I hear, how I taste, my way of entering into this interaction is co-determinant with the quality of what is arising. This is the basis for awakening or enlightenment or liberation, because the site of revelation or the site of disclosure is here with us. And the more we are present moment by moment with what is revealing itself, the more respectful we are to where we are and how it is formed. So, so for example, some of you are familiar with Tantra. Generally, in the first phase of the visualization, we imagine in front of us the deity, perhaps in a mandala palace. We we do this because we have permission to access this kind of visualization on the basis of the vows we took at the time of initiation. That is to say, I am doing the practice. We do some practice, we pray to the deity, and then we believe that from their pure realm, which is an aspect of emptiness, they manifest their true form or their intrinsic form in front of us. They are revealed to us, and we respond to the revelation. We participate with the revelation. And through this, the presence and beauty and power of this pure or divine form is able to show us that we also have this pure divine form. So this is how to receive the revelation or the intrinsic truth. Samsara, this experience of wandering, of going from one situation to another, one stage of our life to another, and so on, arises from ignorance. That is to say, we don't see how it is. Instead, we imagine how, how we think it is. We suffer from an excess of mental activity without being able to recognize both the ground of the mental activity and the actual quality of mental activity. Due to this, we apprehend thoughts, feelings, memories, plans, interpretations of people, places, and so on. We compound our experience. That is to say, we take these subtle traces of experience which has already vanished and use it to build up our stable predictive interpretation. And then we live inside the belief that that is what is actually the case. So when a baby is very small, it doesn't have much recognition of the people around it. Its recognition tends to be in terms of the smell of the mother, the taste of the milk, and so on. But as the months proceed, they start to have more sense of this is my mom. This is somebody who is there and who I can, if I cry, she comes and takes care of me. And then when this small person is first able to say mom, this is like the royal seal on a charter. Whatever this big woman thinks she is now sealed inside mama. And so this is my mom. I don't need to think about it. It's manifest. This is how she is. This is what she is. I might see her with my dad if he's around, or with siblings or wider family, or she's talking with friends. But certainly when I'm small, 4 and 5 years of age, I know that if I say mom enough, I will pull her out of these other false identities. That is to say, I am committed to my blinkered identification. in order to maintain the reassuring certainty that this woman is just my mom, wholly my mom, I blind myself to all the importance of all the other evidence, which indicates she is a complex, polyvocal person. I'm living inside my assumption. I assume that my mother will always know where my socks are, and she will know what I'm doing in school tomorrow and what I have to take. I'm taking her as an extension of myself. So this is like a metaphor for our situation in samsara. I take myself to be a human being. I perceive the world around me in terms of my own embodiment. This is how it is. I'm just me. As far as I can remember, I've always been me. There are birds and there are fish and there are dogs and cats, and they do what they do. They're not like me. I'm limiting the factors of reflection or questioning which might unsettle my sense of security. I am, and all these things just are. So this is the starting point for most of us when we come in contact with Buddhist Dharma. And it's a very limiting position. So one of the first things we start to reflect is, may all sentient beings be happy. May fish be happy. May crows be happy. And cows. So may all these different kinds of creatures be happy. And the basis of their happiness is that they have the possibility of awakening. Because the cow is not essentially a cow. It is contingently a cow due to causes and circumstances. The same with the fish. And of course, it's the same with us. We think that we are a human being and that this is somehow an eternal identity. Even if we know that we are going to die, most religions say, oh, you can maybe go up to heaven, but you will be like a human being. You won't turn into a goat to be near God, because we human beings have a special category. But Buddhism is saying something much more radical. What you take to be yourself is not a state that you inhabit. It's not generated by some essential human beingness. And even then, if you accept that myself could appear as a fish or a cow, this self would not be like some kind of stone hidden inside your heart that is transferred into the form of a cow or a bird or a fish. The self is not a fixed entity. Our self is an activity that we are manifesting moment by moment as the display of the potential of the self to show different formations, whether we're thoughtful or distracted, happy or sad. These are not aspects of who I am. They're not like adjectives and adverbs giving some information about the eternal noun of I, me, myself. Rather, they are the flourishing of a potential which is not defined. It is activity per se which gives rise to our formation. Samsara arises from activity. So we know about karma, which is a word that means activity. The formulating quality of a karmic structure depends on subject and object and their connection being taken as real and substantial. And on the basis of knowing that there is a definite object with true qualities, I develop an intention towards it. This intention is usually inflected by some affect, some liking or disliking, jealousy, and so on. And this emotional content is the energizing force which takes us towards an action of connection, which could be for the other person or thing. It could be life enhancing or destructive. So ignorance means ignoring. It's not a state, it's an activity. And it exists in parallel with selfing, which is not a state of self, but an activity of selfing, a process. In not seeing how I actually am, that not being in touch with the absence of inherent existence in I, me, myself, I think I'm just me. What am I holding on to? Me. Seems obvious, but this me is actually an idea. So in the Tibetan language, they talk of Dzogchen. Dag indicates I, but it also indicates something. And Zin means to hold. We take hold of something. Now, from our ordinary dualistic perception, that seems quite reasonable. I want to know where my shoes are. I am confident that I am the owner of shoes. And I need to go out, so where are my shoes? I am entitled to own shoes. And therefore, I'm entitled to be angry if you take away my shoes. This is the basis of law, that the world is constructed out of things which can be defined and refined as commodities, and they can be owned. You can own land. A country can own the airspace above it, can try to own the entitlement to fish in the waters around it. In many cultures, people are entitled to own other people as slaves or bonded laborers. In very patriarchal cultures, the senior male seems to own the whole family, and in particular the women. So we're very, very used to swimming in a sea of things. And I, the swimmer, am also a thing. So the first point that we need to clarify if we are going to approach true discernment or wisdom is whether entities actually exist. First of all, we study impermanence, the outer forms of climate change, the seasons, and so on. We can examine the impermanence in relation to our body. We get older. We're not able to do the things we did when we were very young. We like different foods at different times of the year. So although you might have a favorite food and say, I really love this, if you had to have it 3 times a day, every day, you might get to change your mind. It is to say, my relation with my body and with the world around me is thought mediated. So my idea about, I don't know, strawberry ice cream is not the same as eating a huge amount of strawberry ice cream. In the realm of ideas, I love strawberry ice cream. But if I have to eat some 2-kilo tub of ice cream, then I'm going to feel very sick. And towards the end, this ice cream is not going to be so interesting. That is because strawberry ice cream and myself, we are in a relationship. And relationships don't always work out very well. A little bit of the other is very exciting and interesting. But a big heap plate, maybe I've had enough. So here we start to see the important connection between the idea of what we take to be the object and the actuality of interactive connectivity with phenomena. So this somethingness, this Dag, is an idea. It is not the actual phenomena. Phenomena are only available in this moment. When you consider the future, this is imaginal ideas. When you think of the past, this is images and imagination arising. Phenomena are always now. ideas move across the three times, past, present, and future. And this present, the present embedded in the three times, is not the open actual present. It is a conceptual present. So if a mother says to a child, "What are you doing now?" "I'm reading my book." This is a lie. They're replying to their mother. The mother has, by her question, has taken the child out of where they are. If the child was to tell the truth, they would say, "Well, I was reading my book until you interrupted me." But who wants a truth-telling child? So in that way, we talk about something as if it were the truth. I was reading my book. When you leave me alone, I will continue to read my book. Therefore, in truth, I am reading my book. When you examine for yourself this kind of experience, you see the power of the organizing idea to develop a pseudo continuity of both self and field of experience. Ignoring how it is the mother of samsara. Imagining how the world is the father of samsara. When this mother and father are together, like in this Yabyum statues in Tibetan art, when they are copulating, when they are making babies, this gives rise to the ceaseless flow of our reassuring assumptions about who we are and where we are and what we're going to do. So we have to recognize the power of this misleading mother and to see that in this life, our own flesh mother was also a child of this deluding mother. So in a family from generation to generation, you have the transmission of the mental dullness, which takes our human situation to be just like this. And we are sent to school, or from the elders, we learn about how our culture is, about how we should behave. And this lineage of dullness or obscuration is underpinned by the deep mother of ignoring the simple actuality of existence. So, in the time we have together, we're going to focus on finding our true mother. And if we find the true mother, we'll also find the true father. Okay, so now we have a break for 20 minutes. Okay, so now we're back. We can do a little bit of sitting practice together. And if we keep the image of the mother, then you have to imagine that you are a kind of shy and troubled teenager, and you like to spend your time in your bedroom. And mom comes and knocks on the door and says, "Come on, come and be with us. Life is better outside." So this is the basis of meditation. When we sit and we get distracted, we fall into our little bedrooms, our habitual thoughts, our preoccupations. The teaching says the mind is open. Awareness is like the sky. Come out, be in the space with us. But if you no, I'd rather hide in the thought. My memories are very cozy. So again and again in the practice, when you get distracted or caught up in something which is arising, you have to remember that your bedroom is inside the flat. It's not a separate world. And the flat is in the town. And yeah, the town is in the big world, which is in the sky. So without blaming yourself, without being critical, just relax back into the open space where the transient experiences are arising and passing. Okay, so we just sit in a relaxed way like this for some short time, and you can relax into the out breath, and whatever arises, just let it come and go, not involved. Stay with the space. The empty open space is your mother. Mom will keep you safe. But these thoughts, they're going to lead you into trouble. Trust your mama. Okay. Okay. That's a very useful practice to do many times a day, just for short periods of time. It's not something that you can do by effort. Our mind as activity is a dualistic consciousness of subject and object. This is moving all the time. We're conscious of memory, sensations, outer colors and shapes, and so on, coming and going. What remains, what abides, is awareness itself. And our awareness, our basic noetic or knowing capacity, has no shape or form. It's just like space. It's open, present, but ungraspable. So in the practice, just relax and sit, and you become aware of what you are resting on. This is not a problem. It's just an illustration, an illumination of your habitual structuring. I see things, I hear things, I plan to do things. This is me. When you are committed to planning something, you are conscious of the patterning of the thoughts and the implications and possible outcomes. It seems real and important, and then it's gone because we live in time and we have to attend to something else. Not only has the object formation, the thoughts, memories, and so on, vanished, but the subject formation, the particularity of our conscious apprehension, that also has vanished. Our subjective sense of self is a false identity. Just as the habit of ignoring is our false mother, our habit of identification with moments of consciousness as if they indicated a permanent self, this is the false son or the false child. Because if you are just to even to keep a stream of consciousness, you would find that the mind is always changing. What you are conscious of is always changing. Most of it is organized in a pulsation of I like, I don't like, attraction, aversion. That is to say, my subjective self is pulsation. It is the movement of energy. It's not a thing. I am movement. The idea that I am stable with a fixed essence is a delusion. If you can believe in a film, in the cinema, if you can believe in the characters in a novel, then you can start to see, oh, I believe in a self the way I believe in Superman. When something is created, we can see that it's artificial. But when it's created and believed in, then it can appear to us to be intrinsic. It's just there. Superman exists. Of course he does, as an idea. And when we take ideas to be real, this is something born from the deluding mother of ignorance. Since all that you experience, whether it's external perceptions or thoughts or feelings, are arising and passing, they cannot fulfill your yearning. They vanish. We're looking in the wrong place and we're looking from the wrong position. Both self and object, or self and environment, are movements of energy in the open field of awareness. This is not a dogma that you're being asked to believe in. You can observe it directly in meditation, but also through reflection on your own experience. Since you got up this morning, not only have you experienced many object formations, many things arising for you, but you, the experiencer, have manifested as many different formations. Think of these feeling tones that you believed in or identified with as being indicative of you. I feel happy, I feel sad. This seems to be a truth of me. And then it vanishes. Through this, you can start to see for yourself the mind is empty of self content. It is an availability which allows the richness of experience to come and go. So that's to take up the idea of impermanence and to use that as a lens to perceive the endless change of what you take to be fixed and reliable. Moreover, we have this Dharma concept of dependent origination, which indicates that on the basis of this having occurred, that will occur. For example, you are alive because you are breathing. On the basis of breathing in, I breathe out. On the basis of breathing out, I breathe in. So we have words like exhale and inhale, two different things. What is it like to exhale? What is it like to inhale? So you can think of them as separate units. This is a kind of haze or veil in the mind because we inhale and we exhale, exhale and inhale. They are feeding each other, they are connected with each other, they are interdependent. And when you look around the place that you stay, you have some furniture which was made by people other than you, most probably. So the furniture arises on the basis of how much money you have, your taste, the kind of possible items that you're aware of, and on the skills of the craftspeople who make them, and on the discussion of the owner of the company and the accountant as to whether they should continue making one kind of chair or try a new chair. So this is pointing us towards an investigation which we can carry out all the time with regard to everything we encounter. Oh, when you see that, again, it takes the mind towards a dynamic view of manifestation rather than a perception of enduring entities. You look in the fridge, and on the basis of there being nothing there, you go to the shops. On the basis of shopping, you fill the fridge. On the basis of eating, you gradually empty the fridge. So everything is linked together. What this means is that there are no independent entities. So we have this Buddhist technical term, the absence of inherent existence in phenomena. And included in phenomena, from this point of view, is our own body, our own life situation. Clearly, we know that if we stop breathing, this structure will not survive. My life, my existence as me is dependent. If the climate gets very hot, I'm going to die. If it gets very, very cold, I'm going to die. If there's a lot of air pollution around, it's going to affect my lifespan. So there are many, many factors which operate together to give me the sense that I exist. I exist is a conclusion on the basis of this compounded existence not being seen accurately. Because I can say, I am James. I am James on the basis of breathing and eating and sleeping and walking and talking and studying and going to the toilet. There's no end to the list of factors I would need to include in the composition of me. So it's not that I am just James, but I am James with the movement of all these causal factors and maintenance factors and the absence of the factors of destruction. And this kind of analysis is very, very helpful because it's very easy to become stupid. We are embedded in stupidity. For example, you might say, if you were in the Nyingmapa tradition, that the last Dujum Rinpoche was a great meditator. You look at a photo of him and you say, what an amazing man. People talk this way. It's a complete insult because Dujum Rinpoche was in the Nirmanakaya of the Buddha. And in that sense, is ungraspable. But you put him in a box and you stack up the boxes. Dujum Rinpoche is on the top, and then maybe Chatur Rinpoche, and then Kanjo Rinpoche, and then you have a hierarchy of lamas. He is something that can be known and measured. When you do this, you close the door to liberation because you've reduced him to a thing, a commodity. This young Karmapa is amazing, wonderful. Who is wonderful? The Karmapa. You don't know. Here, look at the photo. Look, he's amazing. Again, you have a reification. You're grasping at a photo as if it was the truth of a person. But the Karmapa is an illusory form, an apparition of the heart of the Buddha. So we have to be very careful how we think about things, because how we think about things is how we make things. The absence of inherent existence means that our existence is conditional. So when the Buddha Shakyamuni got enlightened, he didn't want to teach anything. He said, what's the point? Nobody's going to understand. But various gods came and they asked him again and again, and they threw flowers and so on. And eventually he said, okay. And similarly, in the tantric practice, once you have visualized the deity, then you have to sing to invite the true form, the Yeshipa, to come and arrive and be present in your imagined form. So manifestations like the Karmapa arise due to the wishes and hopes of many beings in samsara. Dharma is in place because of the wishes of beings. Without the teachers, you don't get the Dharma in a way you can understand. And the teaching arises because of a request. It's the quality of a relationship. And out of the relationship, the possibility of the showing arises. So we know this this famous saying from Karl Marx that religion is the opium of the people. And you might then think that devotion is a form of delusion, projecting your power into someone else. But devotion is a relationship. On the basis of the longing of the heart, the clouds of obscuration thin and the pure form appears. The more we are sealed in the cocoon or the bubble of our self-referential ego identity, then I'm just me, this is my life, I'm going to live it the way I want. And you have a flavor of modern individualism. It's up to me how I live. This is a delusion. Because when this virus arrives in our country, we don't live as we wish. An invisible virus has us standing on our heads. Oh, that's a relationship. But people who get the virus have a relationship often of sickness. People who don't yet have the virus have a relationship of anxiety. The hesitancy is woven into the way of their existence. So again, this points to the absence of an inherent existence or identity. So devotion in Dharma is a way of connecting beyond the realm of duality. So if we pray to lama kieno, for example, which means guru, teacher, think about me, hold me in your mind. What this is really saying is, I can't do it by myself. That's a very difficult idea for people who believe in individual capacity and competence. But if we stay with this previous notion of dependent origination, on the basis of this, that arises. On the basis of seeing myself as an autonomous ego self, I look at you as the other, the not me, and I will try to get from this environment what I like and avoid what I don't like. I am managing the continuity and happiness of myself by constantly adjusting my relation with the environment. This ceaseless self-referential activity is what we call karma. It's the basis of developing tendencies which will manifest as future forms of limitation. But if we say, kamapa kieno, kamapa think of me, you are in a state of openness, of relaxed awareness. I need you. As if I'm in a small boat that has been caught by a strong current. I'm being washed out to sea. But if I can throw a rope and tie it around the buoy floating in the water, I can stabilize my little boat. Carried this way and that by whatever is arising in my mind, hopes and fears and so on. If I tie my rope onto a thought, it's not going to keep me safe. And even people who have a good, kind, ordinary people, they are not very secure either. They can get sick, have mental health problems, become unemployed, have all kinds of events that shift how they are and how available they are for us. So devotion is a way of linking to what is actually stable. And that means emptiness. The only secure, unchanging refuge is emptiness itself. We have two aspects that we can perceive again and again. We have stillness and movement. The forms of the world, including ourselves, our families, our friends, our jobs, all are movement. Whatever manifests, whatever comes into form will change and vanish. It does not remain as it is. This is not a problem with the quality of this particular arising. It's not that if we could just try harder, we would be able to stabilize the manifest structure of the world. Everything is moving. The future is unknown. When the president of America doesn't believe in the virus, and he lives in the White House surrounded by security guards with guns and CCTV and many, many defensive measures. But yet the virus will come and say hello. The man they say is the most powerful in the world is not safe. This is our situation. You cannot secure what is moving, but you can settle into the unchanging. And this is what we explore when we look at emptiness. The word emptiness is not very beautiful in English. It indicates a kind of absence, that something is missing. But essentially, it points to the possibility of a potential. So I have tea in my cup. The potential of the cup is limited by the presence of the tea. If I was to add some coffee to the tea, it wouldn't be very good taste. So the tea is the limit of the cup. The cup is not limited, but situationally, it is as if it becomes limited by the presence of a content. When I finish drinking the tea, I return the cup to its potential. It's no longer a cup of tea, it's just a cup. So this is the same with us. When we sit in the practice, and we open the mind empty, it means without personal content. Thoughts, feelings, sensations arise and pass. So we have two modes of cup. We can have the open cup, which is like the sky. Then that's when our mind is in a relaxed awareness, and many things are coming and going, including the sensations which say, I am your body, I am your body, coming and going. So then the cup is filled without being filled. Just as when the sky is full of clouds, it's filled with cloud, and yet it's not filled because the sky is open and empty. And when the wind blows the clouds away, then the sky is just there, fresh, ready, and available. But the second mode of the cup is our ego self as a cup. Then a thought or memory arises in my mind, and it's as if this cup is a paper cup, and the memory or thought starts to be absorbed into the texture of the cup. And I, the cup, feel I am sad or I am happy that that happened. The container, I, me, myself, is fused with the transient content, and I'm sad. And then another thought comes, but I don't want to be sad. I need to do something to stop being sad. And then more thoughts and more antidotal feelings are invited to come and alter this situation I have got stuck in. And what we painfully come to see is that no amount of involved manipulation will bring us to freedom from involvement. Involvement feeds more involvement. And this goes back to our false or misleading mother, ignoring. The truth is that our ego self is empty of its own content. If we could see this, this would be a freedom. I am a cup. I can be a cup of orange juice or coffee or whiskey or whatever. But the quality of our ego self is an anxiety that seeks to be a substance. Going back to this term we looked at earlier, Dzogchen, grasping onto the idea as if it could be made a substance by belief. Because I am like this, I can't do that. I have the security of the definition of myself as being like this. I am knowable. And on the basis of knowing myself to be like this, I can't do that. I wouldn't be me if I did that. So the ego self clearly has a very small range in its portfolio. The open potential of awareness, which can manifest in many different forms, is grounded in seeing that awareness is inseparable from emptiness. But the ego exists on the basis of being something. Again and again, it insists, I am this. And in this way, it continues ignoring its own open ground. And this is a terrible paradox. In order to maintain myself, I have to limit and mutilate my potential. How hellish is this? But if I was to relax and open, I wouldn't be me. This is why we spend time looking at the Buddhist view and understanding in order to be able to sing a sweet Dharma lullaby. We say, sweet little ego, you go to sleep. I'm going to meditate now. Just have a little sleep beside me. Mama's not sleeping. And then through being present in the meditation and not getting involved in what is arising, our consciousness, which always takes an object, is gradually released from this habitual obligation so that its truth can be revealed. Again, this is full of technical terms, so I hope it's not confusing for you. What I'm describing as consciousness in Tibetan is Nampa Shepa, which means knowing shapes or things or something. It is a habit formation. The feeling that I have to know things, I have to know what's going on. It is a constructive activity. In the heart of it is this verb shepa, which means to know or knowing. Now we have this other term yeshe, which means primordial knowing or intrinsic knowing. It means knowing which is like the sun rising in the morning and illuminating the world. It offers a non-conceptual clarity. Most of the time, if we observe ourselves, we see we are very, very addicted to concepts. We rest on a raft of concepts. But yeshe, this primordial clarity of the mind, primordial knowing, is intrinsic to emptiness. It's inherent in awareness. It's inseparable from emptiness. Emptiness doesn't mean empty of everything. It means empty of things. Consciousness is a process of constructing the illusory things that we seem to encounter. And primordial knowing is a way of seeing directly that there are no things, that we are living in a world of light. So when we do the meditation practice and we stay calm and open, spacious like the sky, but with an illuminating presence, everything is rising and shifting and changing like sunlight glinting on the tops of the waves, on and on and on. And from this clarity, there is participation. This participation comes as illusory forms, which is our own body and everything we see. But in order to find this light, radiant quality of our life, we have to let go of our addiction to holding on to heavy darkness, the mental obscuration of believing in substantial things. So we take a break for lunch now, and we come back and look at the transcendent discerning wisdom, which is represented by the Prajnaparamita. Right? Okay, so we continue now. And one of the key things about Buddhism is that it is, as are many religions, a presentation of revelation. There is a clear differentiation made between that which is constructed, what is gathered together or made on the basis of human thought or thought from other kinds of beings, and what is revealed. The revelation is about the intrinsic. And what we touched on this morning is that ignoring arises as a way of turning away from the intrinsic, that which just is. And this gives rise to the imagination, which imagines all kinds of interpretations, theories, philosophies, and so on. So right to the moment when the Buddha sits under the Bodhi tree, or rather it's Siddhartha who sits under the tree, and he decides, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move until it becomes clear. So he doesn't move his body. And despite the provocations of the Mara demons, the habitual tendencies, and so on, his mind remains settled and relaxed. And it's in that through that he becomes Buddha. Means all limitations are cleared away and all good qualities manifest. It's not that he's clearing the obstacles away, it's that if you don't confirm the obstacle as a necessary part of yourself or your experience, it just vanishes. And what then rises out is clarity illuminating the true qualities of everything encountered. Okay, so it's important to see in this that the Buddha's awakening or enlightenment is not the reward for effort. Rather, it's by not indulging habit formations and deluded interpretations, there is nothing to be limited or defiled. So, with the vanishing of the obscurations and constructed habit formations, enlightenment shines forth. Now, despite this being the case, in the Buddhist literature, there are many, many sutras and examples given on the metaphor of a journey that I have to make some progress. And I have to try hard to make that progress. But if the Buddha nature was not intrinsic, if it was a construct, it would be impermanent. We can see for ourselves old palaces crumble, mountains start to get washed down in the heavy rain, and so on. Enlightenment is not a compound. The light of illumination is already burning. Now, if there is a light shining and I turn my back towards the light, what I see in front of me is my shadow. So that's samsara, the shadow. So if we turn around, if we turn towards the light, we find that we are translucent. The light is shining through us. And that then you have a non-dual awakening. So in meditation, it's very important not to try too hard. Enlightenment is not something that you can get or make or buy. You have to relax into it because it's already there. This is, especially in the Dzogchen tradition, they have so many terms indicating from the very beginning, primordial, unchanging, and so on. So this is when we are sitting, by doing less, we become more open. When you act, a selection of saying yes to this or no to that, you are in the structure of subject and object. And that's a very limited position to be in. Okay, so now we start to look at this verse, salutation to the Mother of Wisdom. This belongs in the class of literature called the Prajnaparamita, or transcendent discerning wisdom. And there are many forms in this literature. There's a very, very elaborated form, which is has 100,000 short verses and 20,000 and so on, going down in number. Then we have the Diamond Cutter Sutra, the Heart Sutra, which is the most famous. And then we have this verse, which is seen as a summation of the Heart Sutra. And then we have the mantra, which comes at the end of the Heart Sutra, which is very well known and very protective of the mind. Tadyata gate gate para sangati bodhi suha. So that's a mantra, which means it's like this. It's gone beyond, gone fully beyond, awake. So it is. It's like this. So we have this, I'll explain this in terms of the 4-line verse that you got. I just read through the Tibetan so that you get the lung connection with it. So in the first line, it's saying, this transcendent supreme knowing or intuition is beyond speech, thought, or expression. And yet, of course, in Buddhism, there are many, many words. So we've already touched on the relation between wisdom and compassion. The teachings are always about compassion because wisdom cannot be said. How it is how it is. As soon as you apply a concept to it, you're talking about it. And this seems to turn it into an object, into a thing that can be known and discussed. But when you see clearly, there's nothing to say. The Buddha taught, if you remember what we did just before lunch, the Buddha taught in order to help other people. He didn't do it for himself. He knew that he couldn't directly give the people what he had experienced because they would have to open to their own truth in order for the truth to shine forth. This is why generally it's not a good idea to talk about meditation experience because it turns it into something. And as soon as you formulate something, you enter the possibility of comparing and contrasting. My meditation today is not as good as it was yesterday. Such kind of conceptualization can only make meditation worse. We're not trying to progress anywhere. We're trying to just be here. And in fact, you can't try to just be here. You have to relax into being here. Although in the tradition we talk of yanas or tegpa, which means a vehicle, there we don't need brakes or an accelerator. There's nothing to stop and nothing to encourage. At first, this might seem just confusing and silly. If I don't want to be here, surely I'm going to go somewhere else. So at the end of that line, it says, Shera Parol Chin. Parol means the other side or the far shore, like of a river. And Chin means to get there, to arrive at it. So that again would indicate we're going somewhere else. We're getting across the river. So what is this river? This is the river of mental content, thoughts, memories, plans, hopes, desires, all the many things which can flow through us as the stream, the santana of our experience. So what is on the other side? It is sherab. It is shape, as we looked before, means to know, and rab means best. So what is the best knowing? That's the knowing that knows how something is as it is. So somebody gives you some new kind of fruit to eat. And just as you lift it up to put it in your mouth, they pour some sugar on it or some salt on it. Now you have a taste, but you taste salt or sugar. If we want to taste the fruit itself, we have to leave it alone. Sherab is the kind of knowing that leaves what is known alone. You know, if I go to Spain and I ask someone, "Oh, do you know Barcelona?" Immediately they say, "Oh yes, well if you're going there, you have to see this, you have to see that," and so on. Because the mind immediately starts to elaborate and to add some additional information. We learn to do this in school, to build up a picture of something. And share up means not to engage in unnecessary activity. So you're standing on this shore, you don't enter into the river, you never enter the river, you're just here. Then the idea of this shore and that shore doesn't exist. If you were on the other shore, you would be here. Where can you be in life? It's always here, it's always now. So this transcendent or intuitive or incisive knowing reveals to you that you are already here. Here is where we are. What is this like, this here? I can say I'm sitting on a chair, which is a little bit hard, but now I'm not here. Now I'm talking about the chair. I'm here looking at this laptop in front of me, which is on a table with some yellow plastic on top of it. If I try to tell you about what is here, I go there. So here is silent. The ultimate contraction of all the Heart Sutra literature is just this sound of ah. Ah is the presence of emptiness. It's a sound, ah, which has very little added to it. On the basis of it, you can have many elaborations, mama, papa, and so on. Ah is the most simple, unelaborated sound. It's just the silent breath turned up slightly on a dimmer switch. So, to make progress is to be here. This is a dissolving or a deconstruction of our assumption of progress. We progress to being here by not going anywhere else. Now, if you step into the river because the current is flowing, it will carry you somewhere. This is our meditation. We sit and relax, but then we find we're floating down the river. Some thought, memory, emotion arises and carries us. It seems to be taking us somewhere else. Where should we be? If you were doing basic shamatha practice of calming the mind, and you were focusing on the sensation at your nostrils, when you found your mind wandering, you would bring it back to the nostrils. I should be here, I've gone there, I better get back. But in our practice, we sit and suddenly we find ourselves off somewhere else. In that moment, don't do anything. As soon as you are aware, you're here. Stay with the here-ness of here. There is nowhere better to be than here. Even that's not a very helpful formulation because it's still in terms of hierarchy of places. When you're present, the river keeps flowing. So at first, when we start to practice, we make a division between stillness and movement. We think, my mind is always moving. I need to become still. But the calm which you create by practicing shamatha is artificial. It's because it's a construct. You build it up, and then if you don't do the practice for a while, you lose the capacity. In this essence of the Heart Sutra, what is being said is that the stillness of the mind that discerns clearly, that is just illuminating what is there, is not carried away by anything. The one that is carried away is the consciousness we looked at before lunch. Because consciousness needs an object. But Sherab doesn't need an object. It's just clarity of connectivity. This arises, passes, this arises and passes. So, the clarity of the mind being present with whatever is occurring is inexpressible. So in order to say it's special, we say it's transcendent. It goes to the other shore. It's amazing. It takes you where you want to go. We have to remember, this is like a parent talking to a child. You explain to the child within the frame of reference that the child is operating in. But we're not going anywhere else. If you want to go somewhere, you're going to be wandering around in samsara. Everybody's wandering here, there, and everywhere. This is inexplicable. The implication of that is it could be quite lonely. You can't share your experience. You can phone a friend and say, hey, I just went to an amazing new restaurant. The food's wonderful. So the food is something. You can perceive qualities in the food. This is the domain of language. We're talking about something, but now we're looking at nothing. The nothing they serve in that restaurant is a little bit similar to the one we went to last week. Meaningless to say that. There's nothing to say. But I want to say something. Because if I share something with you, I am confirmed as the one who speaks. We like to have friends because our friends confirm us in the validity of being who we take ourselves to be. But from the point of view of Dharma, we are not who we think we are. The ego is concerned with narrative, with the construction of accounts of how I am, how you are, and so on. But this clear discerning, this acuity, this sharpness of the mind, it sees the lack of substance in whatever is being talked about. If I say, for example, I want to tell you about my friend Ben, it could be that I'm going to tell you about this person who is not here. But as soon as I start to tell you about Ben, I'm making Ben for you. If there's another Ben somewhere else, that's not our Ben. Our Ben is the one I'm cooking with you. This is where you can really start to see the nature of ignorance. Go back to the idea that as you ignore how it is, you start to imagine how you take it to be. So I say, Ben lives in Paris. There is a Paris, and in that Paris, there is a Ben. These are ideas. The thought that I have about Ben when I start to talk about him has nothing to do with Ben as a living, ever-changing stream of phenomena. That is to say, as I participate in the flow of experience, I create the flavor or the structure of this moment. And if you believe what I tell you about Ben, then you also have something to think about. Because now you believe there is an actual Ben who lives in Paris. And then you might think, oh, I wonder why James was talking about Ben. So now you can think about something which is already a description of something. Talking takes you away from the actual. If you fall into language and don't see it as a self-liberating emergence in the moment, if you don't take it as, if you don't see that it is dissolving in the moment, then sound emerges and vanishes. That's what you hear. You imagine that it is the name of a person and is referring to someone who exists somewhere. This is the play of mental activity. This is the creativity of the mind. We can create stories about Ben, stories about President Trump, stories about great lamas, and so on. There is no actual person to be found. You are inventing them by your speaking of them. But we know that President Trump is in America. How he is in America, we don't know. We are talking about ideas, not the phenomena. You go to see this man, and the soldier will step forward with a gun and ask you what you're doing. He is the president of the United States of America for a while. And while he is this because we have to believe that he is, because he won the election. And we have to believe in the result of the election, even if the one who won the election doesn't believe in the result of the next election. If you look in politics, economics, education, everywhere you see the reification of the imagination. And what this means is we are always talking about the mind. We're talking about experience. Without the mind, there is no experience. We're not talking about real people. There are no real people. The word real indicates a thing, an entity. But President Trump is an interpretation. You hear little bits and pieces of what he does and his background, and you construct for yourself your own idea, good, bad, right, wrong. Your President Trump is your mind. Because if there was one clear President Trump, everyone could agree, oh, he is like that. He is a fantasy object of interpretation, as is your mother. You imagine your mother. If you have a sibling, it's likely that they imagine your mother in a different way. If you are able to take your sibling seriously and reflect that their sense of your mom is not your sense of your mom, then mother is referring to a potential for multiple interpretation. Now, this is vital for meditators because, in terms of the outer teachings of Dharma, you could see that all the thoughts you have about your mother are an obscuration and they hide the truth. And therefore, you should do a lot more shine or shamatha and calm your mind and not elaborate stories. But when we start to look at this Prajnaparamita literature, we see everything is the play of emptiness. It is illusion, like a rainbow in the sky, like a mirage, like the reflection of the full moon in a pond. You are sure something is there, but it depends on your positioning. If you see the reflection of the moon in a pond, and you step back maybe 5 yards, you don't see the moon anymore because it's a relation between where the moon is and its light hitting the pond and where you are for your eye. It is relative. The showing of the moon depends on these causes and conditions, as does a mirage or a rainbow. We see something which doesn't exist in itself. You see your mother, but she doesn't exist in herself. All you can ever see is your mother. You don't see your sibling's mother. You don't see the woman that you take to be your mother. You don't see her according to the eyes of her friends. This is because you are creating your mother. She is a potential for interpretation. Everything in the world arises as the interplay between the potential of the object side and the potential of the subject side. It's how we see it. If you go into a life drawing studio, the people doing the drawings come up with very different interpretations because they draw according to them. We walk, talk, eat, sleep according to us. That is to say, I am a patterning of participation. I'm not a fixed thing, a James who does this or a James who does that. I'm not the maker or the doer, but we are part of the revelation of the field which displays itself as the interplay of, if you like, subject side and object side. You see that in relation to fashion, the clothes you could wear, to the vegetables you like to eat, or how you cook your onions. The world is revealed to me, and that is my world. It doesn't mean that the world is my own private fantasy. It's not an idealistic position, but rather the world reveals itself according to how I participate. So this clear seeing or this discerning, insightful wisdom is the mode of participation which gives us access to the mother of all the Buddhas. Only you can make this clear for yourself. Watch how other people live. Watch them. Look at how they do things you don't do. If you go to visit other people, look how they design their house. Wild. How is this possible? How could they want to live like that? Because that is their world. That rings true for them. We are vibration. Everything in the world is vibration. We make decisions according to the harmonics of what we encounter with the world. Somebody maybe wears a very bright orange sweater. We look at it, oh, that's too much, but not for the person who's wearing it. Their vibration and the orange are quite in harmony. But for us, it's disturbing. So this is what this means. It can't be said. It can't be thought about. You can't express it in any way. You can't do it, make it through art or dance or music. There's nothing that will show how it is. However, what you do show and say is the play of emptiness. It's a interplay. And therefore it is beyond right and wrong. It's beyond judgment. If you make a judgment, it's just another movement in the playful creation of this patterning. So for meditators, this first line is saying, the truth is silent, but you don't have to shut up. Because when you move, when you relate, this is the movement of the energy revealed by the clarity that sees the unsayable ground. You can live truthfully, but you can't speak the truth. Because when we speak, we are participating with others in the co-emergence of patterns. And if you stay with what is manifesting, being present with the emergence brings the next moment of emergence. The river never stops flowing. You're on the bank and in the river at the same time. There's no contradiction between them. So in the Heart Sutra, it says form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. The river is not different from the bank. The flowing, the moving is not different from the still, because the still is not something at all. And the flow is not made up of a series of entities. It's the amazing brightness of this and this and this forever. And we have to remember that when this teaching was first given on the Vulture Peak Mountain in Rajgir in Bihar, India, there were many people present who fell unconscious. Because what this is describing is not something you can pull into your existing frame of reference. This is like pouring boiling water into a paper bag. The ordinary concepts that we have for managing our life in samsara cannot contain emptiness. Emptiness is not just another concept, a better concept, a Buddhist concept. It is the de-reification of all concepts. And when you take this reification or solidification out, what you have is playtime. Because you can't make anything. You're just in the flow, in the mood. And you stay with that. And the flow is connective. And as we will see, this connectivity is the true meaning of kindness or compassion. So this kind of brief text is useful to put your own habitual concepts into question. There is no objective world, but at the same time, the world is not what you think it is. That is to say, you're not sitting apart from the world and making accurate descriptions and comments about it. You are co-emergent with the environment. And this interplay is your life. But maybe we need a little break now because you might have a headache. So we're back in 20 minutes at 3 o'clock London time. Okay. So now we go on to the second line of the verse. So he's saying it's unborn and also unstopped or unceasing, and in essence or its truth is like the sky. So this is referring to what was considered in the first line, this inexpressible clarity of the mind. It's unborn, it means it hasn't become a thing, it's not to be found anywhere. To be born is to come out of the mother, to separate and have the umbilical cord cut. And then the baby is on its own. Of course, it needs a lot of care, but it's now an entity. So the mind of the Buddha, because this is a praise to the mother of the Buddha, which is the quality of the mind of the Buddha. It's not like anything else. It's not an entity, and it's beyond comparing and contrasting. But it's not nothing at all, because it doesn't stop. The flow of experience continues. Now, normally we have the dualistic notion of the knower and the known. So if I look at my watch, I know this is my watch. My watch is the thing that I know, but I am not my watch. The knower and the known are very different. But here, this first part, unborn, indicates the luminous awareness of the mind. And what arises is experience. It is illuminated by awareness, but this experience is not something apart from the mind. It's neither exactly the same nor different. Just as the reflection in the mirror is neither separate from the mirror nor exactly the same. So unborn awareness is inseparable from the ceaseless display of ever-changing experience. So then it says, this is like the sky. You can't catch the sky. It's unborn. It's not a thing that you can find. And yet you never find the sky just as sky. To us, on a good day, it looks blue. The wind blows through it, perhaps carrying the scent of mimosa or some perfume plant. And of course, many clouds of different kinds move in the sky. We see them in the sky. We can't take the cloud out of the sky. The sky and the cloud are not two and not one. They are non-dual, not two. Just as in the Heart Sutra, when it says form is emptiness, emptiness is form, they're not merged into one thing, but neither are they two. Because if I look at the watch, there is the appearance aspect of the watch. This in Tibetan they call this tongcha, the side or the aspect, the share of emptiness. But we also see something. So this is nangcha. Nang means appearance. So this is the side or the aspect of appearance. The word watch identifies what I have in my hand. But watch is a word placed on top of the composition of the many things which are operating inside. Watch is in a sense, is like saying symphony. If you go to a concert, you hear a symphony, but you can't catch it as something. You hear it, you participate with it, you open to it, but it's always vanishing. There's nothing to take hold of, and yet it is impactful. So our mind is empty and full at the same time. The fact that it is full doesn't block its emptiness, because it can only be full because it is empty. If it had something in itself, it couldn't be filled. It would have a half openness or a quarter availability. But when it says it's like the sky, there's no limit to availability. So in our minds, many different things arise. Things we want and things we don't want. In Belarus at the moment, the protests continue. The people want freedom, and some of the protesters get taken by the police and beaten up. They didn't go out asking to be beaten up. This is our situation in life. We move in one direction that we think we know what it is, and something else happens. And this is because our situation is open. Although we might like to draw a circle around ourselves and stay safe inside, we're not able to function if we do that. For example, in Tibet, if people did a long solitary retreat, they would put mantras and signs outside the cave where they were living so that no one would come in. And if you're doing a long tantric practice, you secure the territory of the arising of the mandala by imagining walls of flames and vajras and so on to keep all the disturbing factors out. But here, it's saying your mind is open. You can't actually close it. Momentarily, you can merge your attention into some small thing, like you're really reading a book and you don't see what's going on around you. But here, we're not concerned with highly focused attention. We're concerned with open, illuminating awareness. So in this vast hospitality, which allows the flow of experience, it says this open arena is where the precise details of whatever is occurring is clearly seen. This is the arena or playground of primordial knowing, or knowing that which has been there from the very beginning. It means a knowing which is not cognitive and cumulative, but is immediate and intuitive. So when you look around and you see things, like if I look out of my window just now, I see some people on the road and the way the cars are parked and so on. If I'm looking from the point of view of dualistic consciousness, something will catch my eye. So I look a bit more. Oh, what's that? That's unusual. Now, in that moment of examining one thing, everything else vanishes. So my specific interest becomes a violence against the equal value of what is occurring. Because de facto, in the moment, I'm making this more important than that. But here, what it's saying is that with this relaxed, open, panoramic vision, each detail arises with full value. It's not either or. It's not either everything or just this one thing. And if it's everything, it's a little bit vague. It's just, oh, everything's there. The key point here is I'm not trying to work out what is there. I'm not making sense of what is going on. The world is not a problem for me to solve. I'm receiving the gift of what is arising. It arises and then it passes. And when it passes, because as it described in the, in the second line, it's ceaseless, then like the waves in the ocean, there's another wave and another wave and another wave. There is no clear boundary between the waves, and yet each wave is its own precise self. So if we get over connected with the details of an aspect of the field, the danger is not just that I'm increasing my attention and perception of that particular detail, but that following this attention, there very quickly comes the projection of value. It caught my eye, there must be some reason, so I should look again. This interests me. That doesn't sound a very dangerous thing to say, but if I say that this interests me, without meaning to, I am secretly or silently saying, that doesn't interest me. So, for example, when we do open sitting with our gaze open, the gaze is relaxed. We're not looking at anything. We're not trying to construct something or make something special. The gaze is open. Whatever comes into the gaze comes, and then whatever goes, goes. There for a while. What more could I get from it? The appearance, if it's the appearance of something, will have some essence of something that's hidden inside it. What does it mean? So we become like a detective. Somehow that person looks a little unusual. That's why I'm looking at them. Something must be going on. And so the other people fade into the background. So awareness doesn't take an object. It doesn't need an object. The mirror doesn't need to have anything reflected in it. At nighttime, when you put the light off, it doesn't become less of a mirror because it's not showing any reflection. But if you were to stretch a canvas on a frame and hang it on, every time you see it, it's saying, don't you want to paint? I'm not finished yet. I'm a little bit naked to be hanging on the wall. Give me some clothes. There's a kind of demand. Something needs to be done. So it's exactly the same in the meditation. You're sitting, appearance is coming and going. I am needy. I want something. I don't even know what I want. Perhaps it's this, perhaps it's that. And in that state, we're very easily distracted following different kinds of experience. This is a sign that we are moving in the wave band of consciousness. We have not settled into awareness. And in that sense, this is a sign that we are still alienated from our mother. Emptiness is not enough for us. We want something. So we looked at this already, ignoring the openness of emptiness. We imagine something we can get hold of. So at the beginning of the first line of this verse, it's saying, it can't be spoken, it can't be thought. There's no way to express it in any way. Now, come on, I'm sure I can do something with this. Oh, we could maybe take some photographs or three-dimensional hologram. We'll find a way to bring this really into something concrete. And this is how consciousness gets a job. It proffers itself, it puts itself forward as the one who can make something clear. But if we simply relax and stay open, it's already clear. What is it? It's the display of emptiness. This is how emptiness shows itself. The reflection is how the mirror shows itself. The reflection isn't the same as the mirror, but this is how you know it's a mirror. It has this kind of showing. Awareness has this kind of showing, all at once and very precise. And you can relate to that, you can work with that. In another language, you could say it's the energy of the phenomenological field, the simplicity of the emergent shapes that allow you to, in an improvisational way, find how to dance or to move with another person. It's not something you've rehearsed. You don't know how to do it or what to do. But like the mirror, if you are available, not already preoccupied, then you find yourself moving. Your co-emergence is not based on a conscious intention. And you're going to stay with the joint movement. So if a thought arises, oh, that was clumsy, and you go with that thought, you've lost the co-emergence. So if you keep the thought, oh, that was clumsy, you keep it inside the flow of experience, then it informs you, or it influences you in your next movement, but it doesn't stop the flow. So this arena, the whole of these three verses are now being described as the mother of all the Buddhas of the three times. in order for this to be your mother, you have to enter into her heart or her womb. Now you're inside your mother. Means you're not outside as this autonomous ego self. What is this? Do I like it? Do I not like it? The kind of power or authority that can come from this decision making is also further isolating for ourselves. Because having decided that some things are important and others aren't, then you have to avoid contact with what is not important. I want to be happy. I don't want to be sad. But sadness is part of life. If your friend tells you that she's got cancer, you're likely to feel a bit sad. I don't want to be sad. So I'm not going to have friends. I don't want any involvement because this is all bad things out there. Oh, now I have cancer and I got cancer all on my own because I had no friends. So trying to fix a frame, a shape on your life is a violence to the other and to yourself. That is to say, don't hold yourself apart. This is your mom. This mom is going to show you how you are a Buddha. So you give yourself to mom. And within that, she shows you how you are. Emptiness shows you that you are not something which can be described. Emptiness shows you that your mind, your intelligence, the clarity that you're familiar with is not the limit. That familiar clarity keeps you on this side. If you want to get to the other side, that is to be fully here, you have to trust the nakedness of knowing, which means you have to let go of reliance on accumulated knowledge. It's not that accumulated knowledge is bad, it is a tool, it is a method, it's a tool for thinking. And as we will see soon, methods and tools belong in the house of the father, not in the house of the mother. In this house of the mother, knowing is simply the fresh openness, the brightness of experience flowing. It's not that I am aware, which would be to grasp hold of knowing and use it as a method of increasing my own sense of importance. But neither is it sort of just knowing because I know. But this I refers to Makemiga, unborn and unceasing. I am unborn because when I look for I look for the truth of who I am. The content keeps changing and I find that I am an empty availability. At the same time, I manifest in many different ways. I'm interested, not interested, happy, sad, energized, bored. And the key thing here is don't enter into judgment on experience. My mind is very dull. I don't want it to be dull. What should I do? The instruction is always stay with the one who is dull. We're not looking in detail at the Heart Sutra. There are many translations up on the website for you to read of that. But what the Heart Sutra says is everything is inseparable from emptiness. Anxiety is empty. Depression is empty. Psychosis is empty. Happiness is empty. Hopelessness is empty. Emptiness is the one medicine that cures all problems. If you don't have emptiness as the basis of your life, moment by moment, then you have solidification, reification, fragmentation. So my mind is dull. I don't understand. And I don't understand this fucking emptiness James keeps talking about. This is a real problem. So now you have subject and object split inside yourself. I know that I am the stupid person that doesn't understand emptiness. So now you tie yourself in a knot. In that situation, don't try to change it. You don't have to go and study more. Simply stay present with the one who doesn't understand emptiness. Don't fuse into this not knowing and don't stand apart from it. When you do that, you see that the experience of dullness starts to change. It has actually been held in place by your own reification. So just be empty. We're sitting here as no one. No history, no future, just sitting. Different things come and go, not trying to control them, not grasping onto them, letting them come and go. This is why again and again we have the example of the sky and the ocean and the mirror. The sky, as far as we know, doesn't get upset when it's full of gray clouds. It's not thinking, oh my God, I've already got a headache and now they're going to have thunder. What is this? It's just open. The ego is not just open. The ego has an agenda. Now, when you get up from the meditation, your agenda will be waiting for you, and it becomes part of your being in the world with others. Because you have your own particular rhythm or formation that becomes part of the field you are participating in. But when you're sitting in the practice, we're not looking to what is arising to give us something. The sky doesn't have a lack. The mirror doesn't have a lack that the reflection might fill. Our awareness has no lack. But the ego self is full of lack and hunger and need. The ego is patterning, ever shifting patterning of energy formation moving in the sky of awareness. All beings have the potential to be Buddha. Some have become Buddha in the past, some are becoming Buddha now, some will become Buddha in the future. But they all have the same mother, emptiness. Emptiness is the door through which you pass to become Buddha. And you have to be naked to pass through this. If you're sitting in the practice and you're trying to hold on to the mental habits that you have, your familiar emotions, your worry about sensation in the body and so on, then you're burdened by this stuff, which is your stuff. But some years before, your life wasn't like this. It is not intrinsic. It is not truly definitive. It's contingent. It arises due to causes and conditions. And these causes and conditions are changing. So it's like the second line. There is no real connection between you and what is arising because your mind is unborn. And yet, this unborn mind is the sphere within which the ceaseless flow of experience is occurring. So, just in these 4 lines, you can see the very basis for all the practices of Tantra and for a great deal of Dzogchen. This verse is primarily focusing on the side of releasing attachment into emptiness. When we see that the ground or the openness or the truth of how we are is empty of self-substance, I am not a thing, and yet appearance arises. And part of this field of arising experiences, this one, this formation I take to be me, and I'm changing all the time. Breathing, stretching, scratching, and so on. We are in ceaseless conversation with the environment. This is the ongoing revealing of the ceaseless energy of the mind itself. And this is the basis for the practices of Tantra. If I'm going to practice on Tara, for example, I will become Tara. Now, if I want this to be more than some kind of theater in which I pretend to be Tara, if I really want to be Tara, I have to find a way of releasing myself from my fixation that this is me and find the open potential out of which this formation, familiar formation, seems to arise, and then see directly that that ground, that ungraspable ground, is exactly the ground from which Tara herself arises. Tara is the smile of emptiness. You see how she shows in all her many different forms. These are demonstrations of availability. All the deities are forms of connectivity, and they all have exactly the same ground. Of course, if you read the Tantras, at the beginning it will often have some story about the history of how this deity came into manifestation. But they come from emptiness. Emptiness is not a place somewhere far away. Emptiness is what is already here. But for the deity, the emptiness of the manifestation is obvious. So, say for example, I have a coin. The coin has two sides. You could say that these two sides are inseparable. They are non-dual because they are always joined. But the side with the head on it and the other side, they are not the same. They are dual. They are not non-dual. Because one side is truly not the same as the other. They are connected, joined, but they exist in their difference. Now, emptiness is not like that. It's not that you have form and emptiness. Part of the problem is when we translate these texts into European languages, we have to emphasize the verb which is connecting the two items. In Tibetan, they can just write appearance, emptiness together and make a kind of joint word. Whereas in English, we would have to say appearance and emptiness. And under the power of this grammar, we make many problems. It's not this and that. This form is empty, and empty is form. When you look into the truth of the form, you see that it's ungraspable and empty. Excuse me, if I look at my cup and I think about the cup, I make the cup more real. But if I start to take my thoughts out of the cup, my memory of where I got it, of how often I use it, and so on, my opinions and judgments about the design, if I take myself out of the cupness of the cup is manifestly empty. There's nothing in it. I put the cup in the cup, and everything about it is done by the mind. This is the play of the mind. And if we see that the play of the mind itself has no substance, then this is like dakinis dancing in the sky. It's a play. Nothing is established. It's aesthetic, not cognitive. So it doesn't come to a definition or a solid conclusion, but it has an impact. We are touched and moved, and we participate in different ways. We are moving in the moving field. So this is what this verse is pointing to, that the freedom of the Buddhas to be helpful for beings arises from their experience in the womb of the Great Mother. She is the mother who, in dissolving these relative truth qualities out of which we construct our familiar sense of self, we are then naked. And this naked openness has infinite potential to manifest in many different ways. So it's useful to read the Heart Sutra, and you will find in it that the Heart Sutra is manifest from the Buddha honoring his own true mother. It's Prajnaparamita. So we take a break now for 20 minutes and then come back and look at Dad. Good. See you then. Okay. So this is our last session for today. And tomorrow in the morning, it will just be 2 sessions, but they will be 1.5 hours each. So I just say a last thing about emptiness. You can see emptiness has a long history. It begins in a kind of negative way of removing the imposition of the delusion of inherent existence. So it is then the negation of the assertion that there are truly existing entities. And that is something that you can experience. You can see that. So you can see that the watch is made up of many moving parts. And so the word watch is applied to a moving system. It's not a fixed entity. But as we started to see, that emptiness is pervasive. Emptiness there is a fecund mother, a mother that is full of potential. It's a plenum void, a void which is full. And there's no contradiction between the full and the empty. In this case, this infinite emptiness is not something that you can experience. So we experience trees, pizzas, and so on, but we don't experience emptiness because it's not an object of experience. Similarly, you can experience your consciousness. I can be conscious of the fact that I'm conscious that I need to do something at 6 o'clock this evening. Because consciousness, in that sense, although it looks like subject, it's also an object for a further consciousness. But awareness is not an experience. It's not an object. There is no experiencer of awareness. Awareness is self-luminous and self-illuminating. So there's nothing to grasp. That's why the verse we just looked at begins by saying, you can't say this, you can't think about it. And it's why in teaching we use lots and lots of examples and similes and metaphor and so on. But it itself evades language. So we've been looking at the mother. This is a mother who never abandons. She's always available. Very, very close, but not insistent. It is aware, this bright mind, which is inseparable from emptiness, has no agenda. It's not trying to make you do anything. Let me put it this way. Emptiness is not trying to save anyone, because in emptiness, there is no one to save. It's that simple. Awareness is peaceful and open and available. There is no door. We, in our conceptual elaboration, create doors which get in front of us so we can't open. So now we come to the second verse, which is Hri Tuji Rudu Kunla Se Jampan Ninji Senchin Kunlanyon. Dus Shepe Malu Kiepe Ya Papa Chenrisi La Cha Cha Lo. So this is a homage or a praise to Avalokiteshvara or Chenrisi. It begins with this syllable Hri, which is not in the pronunciation line. That's a mistake. But in the English pronunciation, it's not there. So it should be before Tukje. So Hri is called a bija, a seed syllable. In the open space of awareness, the energy of awareness of emptiness, which is the Dharmakaya, manifests as 5-colored light. And this swirls and comes together in the form of a letter Hri. And the Hri then shows itself as Avalokiteshvara. This letter Hri is present always in the heart of the Buddha Amitabha. Amitabha is Buddha of the Western direction. His name is Infinite Light. And from his heart manifests these three as Avalokiteshvara, who is the Sambhogakaya, or the display aspect of the Buddha. And Hri also manifests from Amitabha in the form of Padmasambhava. There are many different ways in which manifestation occurs. Chenrezig, as we'll see from the verse, is considered to be a manifestation of compassion. Although all the great bodhisattvas, and he is a great bodhisattva, although they all have all qualities, they tend to have a particular line or specialization. And if you go into the stories of origin of these various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you see that they arise from a particular kind of intentionality. So Amitabha, as a Buddha, when he was a Bodhisattva, took a vow to be able to save all beings by them relying on his name. He took it upon himself to become fully enlightened with much effort, so that beings, by just relying on his name, would find themselves in his pure land of Sukhavati, or Dzogchen in Tibetan. And so at the time when these beings were formulating their bodhisattva intention, for whatever reason, some idea took hold of them and they thought, oh, this is how I would like to manifest. Because it's not that Buddhas are made in some standardized factory. We have our own personalities and qualities. And they influence how we manifest towards other people. So this is a quality. The more we deepen in Dharma, the more we find a way, which would be our way to manifest Dharma through our being in the world with others. That could be through poetry or painting or dance or something very scholarly, or particular ways of communication. So it's important to see that the tendencies that you have are not to be rejected, but they are to be brought into relationship with the potential of Dharma. Now, in some ways, the seed syllable or a bija of Prajnaparamita, the goddess we looked at before, is A. But it's not a bija in the sense that it doesn't have an energy towards a particular form. So although A is her heart essence, she's not manifesting generally as in a specific form, although there are practices you can do about her, tantric practices. But here, when we begin by saying three, this is evoking the presence of Chenrezig instantly out of the open space of awareness that he inhabits. So the first line says that he is looking always with great kindness at all the beings who wander in the 6 realms of samsara. When you see this word, Chempo, which means great, Tukje Chempo, in text like this, it always indicates emptiness. That is to say, everything becomes great by transcending or being freed from our tendency to grasp onto it as something fixed. So he's looking on all beings with great love, concern, kindness. Why does this matter? Because he is not being abandoning. When dictatorships become full of horror, one of the favorite pastimes is to make people disappear. They're walking on the street and suddenly a van drives up, they're grabbed and put inside and never seen again. They enter oblivion. The fact that some people remember them is important. The state wants them to be nothing at all, but we can remember. And there are organizations like Amnesty International, which are very much concerned with remembering and making the names known and so on. And the very brave mothers of the disappeared in Argentina would every day be out protesting quietly in the square. We will not forget you. This is very important. Now we have more reporting on the conditions of factory farming of animals. That is to say, many people with good hearts say, we will not allow horror to be invisible. So this is this quality that Chenrezig is looking all the time, and seeing is a connection. If we really want to connect with someone else, we look in their eyes. So when we do a practice like with Chenrezig, we can develop the trust that we are not alone, we are not abandoned. If you enter into the tantric practice after you have a initiation or another means of connection, even if you forget the deity will never forget you. So then it says that he thinks of or holds in mind all sentient beings, and he does with love and kindness. Now, if you take the Bodhisattva vow, you promise to save all sentient beings. And then you go out for a walk in the town and you see how people spend their time. And then you start to cry. I promise to save people who don't want liberation, they want to get drunk. Ay, 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 this is going to take a long time. Why didn't I look what I was going to do before I said these difficult words? In the Mahayana tradition, we say, for as long as it takes, in this and all my future lives, until all sentient beings are free, I will work for them. So when Chenrezig is holding these beings with love and kindness, implicit in this is his equanimity. He's not more thoughtful of the people who do some meditation and try to be good. It's equally available for everyone, including murderers, torturers, and so on. The kindness and concern is not a reward for being good, but it's the gift of connectivity. Everything is empty of inherent self-nature. Separation is a delusion. Connectivity is intrinsic. So, Chenrezig is manifesting the warmth of the Buddha's heart to say, we're in it together. Even if you want to continue in your delusion that you are not a part of what is going on, if you place yourself apart on the outside, you are still on the inside. All sentient beings are already in the mandala of the Buddha, because given that they are empty of inherent selfness, they have no position which is apart from everyone else. The fact that we tell lies to ourselves doesn't make the lie true. So then the third line is saying, you are the Father who gives rise to all the Buddhas of the three times. So we have these two aspects, wisdom and compassion. Generally speaking, in Tibetan Buddhism, wisdom is the feminine, and compassion or method is the aspect of the masculine or the father. So the mother and the father belong together. If you only have wisdom and no compassion, you can have a very cold clarity. And if you only have loving kindness, you can stay in a state of agitation because there are so many horrible things happening in the world. Now, although sometimes we say that wisdom and compassion are like the two wings of a bird, both need to work in harmony in order for the bird to fly. Actually, we need to establish the understanding of emptiness in order for compassion to be self-purifying or self-releasing. As we know, wisdom is invisible. And with the rise of feminism, we become aware that the feminine principle and the social presence of women is often not privileged and not honored. Very often in patriarchal society, the man comes first. The man sits in the center of the house, in charge, wearing the clothes washed by the woman, eating the food cooked by the woman. Maybe not so big and important. Because the thing about patriarchy is it always tries to have autonomy, standing alone, the father of the people. Where is mom? In the kitchen. So it's like that. This is the structure that we are familiar with. But method is the method of linking and connection. It's working with the energy of manifestation. So we have the notion of the three kayas, the three aspects or bodies of the Buddha. The Dharmakaya, the enlightened mind of the Buddha. This is the house of the mother. Then we have the form kaya, which is the Sambhoga kaya and the Nirmana kaya. These are in the house of the father. This is activity. If the activity is not grounded in emptiness, you have a big problem. It's vital to really see the infinite emptiness of how you are. So if you do a tantric practice and you receive the three lights purifying body, speech, and mind, and then the deity, whose body is made of light, dissolves into your body, which is now light. And this unified ball of light gets smaller and smaller till it vanishes. Then there is just openness, nothing at all, not subject, not object. Rest in that state. And then experience starts to occur. This is the moment to remember that you love your mama. What is arising from emptiness. It's not, oh, now I get back to my familiar world. And you get so connected with your interpretive concepts that you solidify the situation. Rather, we have to relax and allow gradual emergence of patterns and to really see this is form inseparable from emptiness. Appearance and emptiness, sound and emptiness, thoughts and feelings and so on, inseparable from emptiness. That is the real Yabyum. That is the father inside the mother. I don't know in Spanish or Portuguese, but traditionally in English, people would talk about the penis penetrating the vagina. And I remember years ago encountering some women who had been discussing this and saying, no, this language is unhelpful because the vagina is enveloping the penis. It's not helpful to use a language of violence. So in the translation of text, it's helpful to have this sensibility. Emptiness, the womb of the Great Mother, envelops all forms of manifestation. All movement is moving in the sky-like womb of the Mother. If there was no space, there would be no movement. It's the movement of space, in space, as space. So the Mother is the holding frame. The Mother is the infinite within which the various finite moments of method are moving. And when you look at the tantric art from India and then later from Tibet, the woman is all depicted smaller than the man. And this is not necessarily just a physical representation because men are often bigger in their body size than women. But when you look at this statue of Yabyum, this huge man with all kind of ornamentation is looking at you and you see the back of the woman. So it looks like the man is containing the woman. But it is the feminine, the emptiness, the wisdom, which contains the movement and the method. It's important to be aware of this, that without emptiness, method is just doing things. So if we go back to what we started with in the first session this morning, in this first moment of ignoring the openness, we have simultaneously the imagining of substance. So this is where you can see what happens to method when it is separated from its ground, the womb of the mother. When we sit in meditation, we open to allow whatever is moving to move in the space of the mind. The spacious awareness has no need of any particular arising, just open and available. If you get lost in a thought, you lose mum. You wander off somewhere. When you are a child, your mother says, don't go off with strangers. You stay close to me. But in the meditation, we go wandering this way and that way. Sometimes it takes us into great sadness and confusion. Rest in the openness of the mother. Then the movement of the father is purified of its seductive power. Thoughts and feelings moving in your mind, this is like some dance of Don Giovanni. Don Giovanni was very fond of fucking. He didn't hang around and wait to develop a nice family life. Climb in the window, into the bed, climb out of the window. So when you sit in meditation, you're carried here, carried there. And in the end, what do you have? Looked very shining, looked very important, but it's gone. Not only do you lose the precious thought, but you lose awareness. So awareness is inseparable from space. Rigpa, the mind's radiance, is not a thing. The various movements of energy are the communication of the patterns of manifestation. This is kindness. So we have, if you like, two aspects of non-duality. Firstly, there is the non-duality of subject and object. When we think of another person as someone we can get or use, seeing them as a commodity or as some adorning quality, our relationship with them becomes perverse, and also our relationship with ourselves. We become a predator. In the world of politics, you can see many predators. In the world of international commerce and finance, many predators. When the hedge funds are gambling on currency relations, they're not concerned with people whose pay at the end of the week is going to be worthless. The first step in dissolving this kind of cruel and heartless duality is to develop a sense of intersubjectivity. You are a subject, I am a subject. You have feelings, I have feelings. Both our feelings, both our thoughts have validity for us. How can we connect in respect for each other's particularization? To take the Bodhisattva vow is to say, I renounce the objectification of any living creature. I will stay with the bright, shining vitality of every living creature and encourage them in a benign interconnectivity. So when we do this homage to Chenrezig, in the last line, it says, we bow or we pay homage to Arya Chenrezig. Instead of Arya, we could say sublime. We have many words now which after the National Socialists in Germany are not so easy to use. Arya and swastika and master, terms, they become defiled by perverse use. Chenrezig is sublime or superior because he doesn't get lost in the world. His name means that he can see clearly, quickly, accurately. And looking involves light. We see light. He is the Sambhogakaya form of Amitabha, of infinite light. If you are looking, you are receiving light. We see everyone as luminosity, as the light of the ground. This is how he helps sentient beings in the manner of a dream. He's not seeing real sentient beings who are really suffering and really limited. He's seeing light shining out of emptiness, yet blind to its own truth. Generally speaking, we look outside for the light. We look outside for what we need. We don't really know how to look at with ourselves, at ourselves. To look inward without looking for an object means to look able to receive the light that is already there shining in the heart. Some people can visualize very easily. They have a lot of bright dreams and experiences like that. Other people have very little. But if you have any experience at all, that is the light of the mind. That is the light of the mind. So this word nangwa, which can mean light, it can also mean sound, smell, taste, subtle sensation, strange feeling tone. It means what is appearing. But when we looked at the tantric practice, what we saw is through dissolving, you see that the open, empty ground is the only source for whatever is occurring. So when you really open yourself to the Great Mother, everything is within her womb, not just all the Buddhas, but everything. How could anything be outside? Because nothing has inherent existence. All appearance that you see, whether you call it motor car or street lamp or house, what you see is light. You add names, you add concepts. This is because you are a storyteller. You are not a scientist. You are not giving an accurate description of material reality. The reality of the material world is just another kind of story. It doesn't mean that it's nothing at all, but it's based on words and concepts and mathematical formulae and chemical formulae. These are different languages for asserting somethingness. So the function of Chenrezig is to manifest the kindness and welcoming embrace of the connectivity of all phenomena as inseparable from the breath of the Great Mother. In Western cultures, very often we associate love and kindness with the mother and maybe wisdom with the father. But when we use the term wisdom in the West, we mean some kind of accumulation of knowledge or subtle refinement of knowledge and experience. This is very different from the meaning we've been looking at today. It is cumulative. The Western notion is cumulative. It is compounded, built up step by step. But the clarity of emptiness is instant. It's the clarity of the ground of emptiness. It is intuitive in the sense that it arrives all at once. It's not built up stage by stage. And the compassion is not here a compassion about the poor victim. All beings find themselves where they are according to their karma. Where are they? Of course, we think, now I'm a fish, now I'm a bird, I'm in samsara. Fish are swimming in the ocean of the womb of the Great Mother. Birds are flying in the sky of the womb of the Great Mother. There are no victims. The Buddha's first teaching said, there is suffering. If I suffer, it doesn't make me a victim. To be a victim is not only to suffer, but to lose your dignity, to lose your integrity. This is happening. I have to be with what is happening. I don't want it to be happening. This is our crossroads. Try to turn away, but it's still happening. It's this. This is my life now, however it is. All kinds of medical conditions and so on can affect our lives. these can be a functional limit, but not an existential limit. If you really believe in it and want to limit yourself, you can do that. But all dharmas, all phenomena arise from causes. So in whatever situation, we are here. And Chenrezig is here with us. This is not a fairy tale, because Chenrezig represents your own awareness. He doesn't turn away from anyone. He maintains connection and goodwill. So if you're prone to depression or anxiety or loneliness, sit in the practice with however you are. We don't abandon what is occurring. We don't denigrate what is occurring. If you have a tendency to be angry, don't turn your anger into a problem you have to get rid of, nor merge with it and I just become an angry person. We follow the middle way. Stay present with the anger as it arises. If you stay close to the anger, it will show you directly it is empty. It has no inherent existence. So in this way, we bring the mother and the father together so that wisdom and compassion manifest through their integrity as our way of manifesting in the world. So we come to the end for today. In the morning, we start to look at a very short Dzogchen text. I hope you will see that there is not so much difference between it and what we've been doing today. Nowadays, Dzogchen becomes some kind of high-value fashion item, and it turns into Versace. And Versace is, I think, fair to say, a little bit over the top. It's slightly hysterical. We don't need that at all. Or you can have it if you like. But don't make Dzogchen special. Everything is the same. Everything is the breath of emptiness. Paths or methods or ways of proceeding are useful if they're useful. In principle, everything is useful. But if it's not useful for you and everybody says, oh, but it's the best, then you feel sad. The best Dharma is always the Dharma you actually do. Dharma as theory is not worth an ice cream. Okay, so we meet tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock English time. And thank you to our translators and organizers. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye. Okay, so maybe we can begin. This morning, we're going to look at a different kind of text, focused directly on the Dzogchen approach. I think generally for most people in the West, it's helpful to do some kind of spring cleaning like we were doing yesterday, looking from different points of view to see how we over solidify our situation. So this is a text by Rochana, who brought this particular line of Dzogchen teachings into Tibet a long time ago. And at that time, many of the texts were written in a very condensed way. In a sense, they are self-secret because unless you get some transmission of them, they are quite difficult to make sense of. But we are very lucky. The translations of root Dzogchen text have started to appear, particularly through the work of Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche. And as with many of the teachings, they are organized around view, meditation, activity, and result. But here in particular, looking at it with this threefold formulation of the ground or base or source, the path, and the result. The ground or the base is ourselves. we are here. How we are here either reveals our intrinsic clarity or doesn't reveal that intrinsic clarity. That's why we have to start with ourselves. We don't start with analysis or theory, but by paying attention to precisely how we are. So the teaching that we're going to look at is like, you could consider it like a visit to the optician. The text is going to help adjust our way of looking so that we see more clearly. We're not going to the clothes shop. We're not getting more garments which we can wrap around ourselves. As we looked yesterday, direct clarity or awareness is very different from knowing about something. When you know about something, your knowledge is based on the presence in that moment of a pattern of concepts. And these concepts, of course, are very impermanent. And the impermanent concepts, therefore, are unreliable. At various stages in our life, we've been studying in school, college, and so on. And this knowledge that we acquired at that time has become unavailable to us. It was there, maybe it helped us to pass some exams, and then it vanished. So in Dzogchen, we are not concerned to build up castles of contingent information. They are unreliable and will vanish. We want to open ourselves to what is intrinsic, which is the direct, our direct presence with what is present, with how we are. Thoughts are not the enemy. Thoughts are the radiance of the mind. But when we don't see the source of the thoughts, they operate together in a constructive fashion and seem to divide the world up into many different things. So this is what the text begins with. The text is composed of 6 lines in 3 groups of 2 lines. And the first 2 lines are concerned with the base or the ground. And I have given 3 different kinds of translations for them to try to bring out some of the flavor of the text. We want to get some encouraging flavor and then use it to go again and again into our practice. So I just read the Tibetan through to give you that connection. Trashipe Paripin Kuncho, that's the title, which indicates the good fortune which comes with awareness announcing itself like a cuckoo in the spring. The cuckoo announces that winter is really over. Summer is coming, you can relax. This is the central point of our Dzogchen practice, to relax into the intrinsic, into how it already is by itself. In the winter, if it's cold, you kind of tighten up inside and want to protect yourself against the environment. There is me and the world. But now we feel spring is here. It's more pleasant to walk outside. There are wildflowers. We feel relaxed and part of the world. This is the flavor of the title, to trust that it's okay to open to how things are. Then it says, Natso Ranji Nini Kyan, Chashi Nidu Trudan Tra, Jishin Ba She Nito Kyan, Nampa Nangse Kuntuzang, Zimpe Zoe Ne Pangte, Lunji Nepe Shakpa Yin. So the first line is saying that there are many, many kinds of experiences that we have. When we look around, we see all kinds of things. your own possessions and the trees and the cars and people, dogs, and so on. They look like different things. They seem to have different qualities and different functions. Through our education, we've learned how to name these things in various ways. We have the sense that the name is applied to something, that the somethingness of the world was there before the name. So that even if we didn't know the name, even if we didn't think about it, it would still be there existing in itself. So there's a lot of stuff. The diversity of phenomena or objects or commodities or entities is actually, if we pay attention, a diversity of experience. Actually, it's not a diversity of things and commodities, but it's really a diversity of our experience. In this word, experience here is like a bridge between what we take to be the subject and the object. So if I lift my cup of tea, as I bring it close to me, I can smell the tea. And the taste of the tea arises as the meeting of the potential of the object and my receptivity. The potential of the world is revealed through our participation. So what we actually live with is not just me and the world, but moment by moment we have we world or I world. This is an interplay. And the actual nature or the how it isness of whatever is occurring is not different from how it shows. In the showing of our experience, we see all these different things, but how they are is experience. Experience occurs now, not in the past, not in the future. It is direct and immediate. When you think about the experience, when you apply a conceptual elaboration, it is as if the past and the future can exist as two structures which you can visit. You think about the past, you think about the future as if they were there. But in the moment that that is occurring, that moment is always now. So it's not that you go to the past or you go to the future, but the past or the future is, if you like, a mood or a flavor of now. The openness of the ground, the emptiness of the ground, and what is occurring are not dual, they are not two different things. Non-duality doesn't mean that things have been brought together. In the practice of Tantra, you come across the term zungjuk, which means joined or union. It's symbolized by the sexual union of the male and female deities. But here we are concerned with Dzogchen Chembo, the great completion. That is to say, the intrinsic or primordial completion. There has been no separation or fragmentation or creation. Whatever is arising is the mind. Whose mind? Your mind. Why do you not see this? Because you think you know what your mind is. Some people think that their mind is their brain and become very excited by neuroscience. Some people think that their mind is very bright or very dull. They see it in terms of its cognitive capacity. Some people think of their mind in terms of their feelings, that they become suffused with sadness or happiness. But if we stay with this word experience, there is occurrence or happening. If that is reified, then you think something is happening, something is occurring. And then from that, something is happening to me or for me. In this example, you can see elaboration. You are making sense of what is going on by referring to your individual ego self. This is the false base or the false ground. I am me. I have always been me. I am like an irreducible substance. And what I want from the world, what I want to do, and where I want to go depends on this sense of I, me, myself. But as we looked yesterday, the actual way of appearing of what I take to be I, me, myself is ever changing. This self is an idea, it's a concept. Concepts are sticky, they adhere to each other. We know this through language, which is a narrative sequence. We tell stories about what is going on. We talk about something. If there are no somethings, language is unemployed. The task of language is to mediate the world of things. This is why yesterday, when we looked at this verse to transcendent discernment, it begins by saying it's inexpressible. We have the same issue here, that we need to speak and to hear in order to develop some understanding. But this conceptual understanding is like a scaffolding. You can use that scaffolding to create a building, but you can also use it to take down the building. So this is how we are using it at the moment, to allow the habitual tendency we have to concretize the illusory by using the scaffolding of Dharma, and standing close to the scaffolding, we can allow the walls that we have constructed, the walls of separation and evaluation, to come down. Because in the first line, he's saying that the true actuality of what is here, which is open and empty and ungraspable, this is not different from what we experience. We don't need to purify the world. When we see that what we take to be the world is the play of the mind, a theater of illusion, a magician's construct. The magician hasn't constructed anything, but somehow their way of talking brings us into believing that they have done something. So in the second line, he's saying, yet the actuality of each particular occurrence is beyond judgment. So if you look around your room, just see any item, could be a carpet, shoes, cup of coffee, whatever it is. You think, this is my cup of coffee. This is a cup of coffee. This is an interpretation. This is how you relate to what is in front of you. Your experience is being mediated through your conceptual capacity. You believe the concept. Cup of coffee is a concept. It's a way of naming something. So it starts from the assumption there is something. There is an appearance. What you see is this pattern of light. Maybe the cup is white and the coffee inside is black. White and black are words that have different languages express these terms in different ways. You see color. That is the actual. And color is a flow. Light is movement. But cup of coffee seems to freeze the flow of light and substantialize it as a true entity. So if you can, when you see that, then you see that the actuality is unspeakable, inexpressible. There's not something to get hold of. And so it's beyond judgment. Beyond judgment means that the attribution of qualities to this seeming object is a movement of the energy of the mind. And judgment about what I take to be there is a parallel movement of the energy of the mind. So when I say, well, I know it is a cup of coffee, what I am claiming is that me, myself, this is a place where I can stand. I don't care what you think, what you say. For me, it's a cup of coffee. So here we can see that the open actual ground, the ungraspable ground, is hidden by our addiction to the formulation of a false ground. I'm not in touch with the actual. I'm in touch with a fabrication, something which is artificial. I'm taking a construct to be in itself intrinsic. But the intrinsic is there by itself. It just is. But when we elaborate our judgments, this is like a game of tennis. You move energy towards the object, and the object seems to move energy back to you. I know it's a cup of coffee, and the coffee confirms to me in its truth that I'm someone who knows something. This is the game of mental dullness. It looks like light. It looks like my intelligence lets me know what this is. But the solidification hides the actuality that what is appearing is light. So in the second part of this line, it's talking about the structure of interpretation of the world through polarities. Because implicit in the assertion that this is a cup of coffee is the certainty that it's not a cup of tea. The non-teaness of this cup is its coffeeness. When something is asserted, simultaneously something else is being non-asserted or dispensed with. So good, bad, high, low, hot, cold, and so on. These polarities operate in mutual exclusion. If it's high, it's not low. If it's male, it's not female. And the polarities establish the isolation of the item referred to by the exclusion of all that is not it. So he's saying here that this way of formulating, this way of understanding is not present in the actuality of how things are. So when we look at the cup of coffee, if we don't say cup of coffee, we still think, well, there's something there. What is that something? It's a porcelain cup or a cheap cup. Oh, I am saying this. I am adding this. What is this cup in itself? Well, it's white in color. I say, is it white in color for a pig or a fish? The whiteness of the white exists as our interpretation. It is a mental activity projected into the object and then reinterpreted back to the subject. When you stop projecting meaning into the object and leave it as it is, it has no hooks. It's smooth like a billiard ball. There's no corners. You turn it, you can't find top or bottom, inside, outside. In itself, intrinsically, it is free from any concept which can be applied to it. When you apply the concept, you blind yourself to how it is in itself and give birth to how it is for you. It is as if it is the way I think it is. It is not actually this, but this is how I believe it to be. And because we are social creatures and we use language, we learn what is the socially acceptable way of interpreting this seeming thing. Now, I'm not setting this out as some kind of analysis you have to do, but simply to point out that we arrive at the conclusion that this is a cup of coffee on the basis of a lot of mental activity. So now maybe we can see why the instruction in Dzogchen is always to relax, do less. This doesn't mean like sitting on the sofa and daydreaming. It means staying with your mind as various thoughts, feelings, sensations, and so on arise. When the clarity of simple openness to what is being revealed, then each thought that arises is like a window cleaner. And as the thoughts, feelings, and so on arise and pass, by the non-involvement, the mind becomes brighter. But when you go into involvement with the thought, when you take the thought to be a true messenger of truth, then you have some meaning arising. Oh, this coffee smells very good. Maybe this is the Arabica bean, I think. Now you can add more of your knowledge about the history and geography of coffee production into this poor little cup. So in the meditation, we do this by getting distracted, by following the thought. And then we think, oh, I got distracted. Now this is a judgment. I shouldn't fall into the thought, I should stay clear. So this is a dualistic kind of clarity. Not distracted is better than distracted. But actually, what does it mean to say distracted? I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. However, the mind is arising, stay with the mind. The movement of the mind and the stillness of the mind are not two things which can be pulled apart. The stillness of the mind, which is the simple awareness, is present even in distraction. But the quality of distraction is that the intensity of the fusion of subject and object brings a mental dullness which makes openness to awareness unavailable. So the non-duality means that how you actually are and how you appear are not two things. However arising occurs, whatever form is shown, is non-dual with its own actuality. This actuality is the ungraspability, which is the field within which experience is occurring. When we talk of the ground, if you can think of the earth outside. If you want to build a house, you make some foundations, and then you build something up stage by stage. But this base or ground or source is not like that. The house is other than the earth. It stands in relation to the earth. There are two things, the earth and the house. What he's saying here in this first line is this, the diversity of experience, all the possible things which can occur from the highest point to the lowest point in any country, in any language, for fish, for ducks, for anything. They have never been created. They have never been born. They are not things, they are not entities. Well, we have the familiar example of a rainbow. We see the rainbow. Rainbow is there. And yet the rainbow is not a thing. It is an illusion. The illusion is something ungraspable. It's in the sky. It's not separated from the sky. You can't take the rainbow out of the sky. It's not in opposition to the sky, but similarly, not other than the sky. So this is the non-duality. There is not just one thing, nor are there many different things, but all possible appearances, whether it's with smell or taste or sound or hardness, these phenomena are inseparable from this open ground. They are not born. They only appear to be born when we engage in conceptual identification. And the thing about the use of concepts is it gives us the sense that I can catch or take hold of what is arising, although in itself it's ungraspable. We say, if I look out the window, I say the car is blue. Blue takes 2 seconds to say. It arises and vanishes. This is what is manifesting. But blue seems to plug into some eternal blueness, so that I'm saying something definite about the color of the car. Because it has been raining a lot in London, the car I'm looking at is covered in drops of water. What I see is some shining moments, shining drops of the water, and the surface looks different. That is what is there, how it is. So when I say blue, I claim the existence of some permanent quality irrespective of the rain. So I can ignore how the car is also in the shadow of a tree. So some part is bright, some part is not. I ignore the rain and just say, it's blue, it's always blue. I privilege the concepts. The concepts are the food of the ego. The ego is itself a concept. And the more I use concepts, I am strengthened. So the diversity of appearance is inseparable from its own ungraspability. And so there is no basis for judgment. Clarity means what is showing. And clarity is present before conceptual interpretation. And in fact, conceptual interpretation can move through clarity without disturbing it. So in Dzogchen, we are not so much concerned with sitting in meditation for a long time. Rather, we want to bring our open awareness, this quality of rigpa or bright receptivity, into presence all the time. So whether we are walking or talking or eating or sleeping, we stay with the infinite openness of the mind itself, not blocking the movement of the mind, but also not resting on the movement of the mind. As the mind moves, when we get up from meditation, we are moving in the field of clarity of the mind. So if I get up from where I'm sitting, I become aware of the muscles tensing and releasing as I stand up. I have to go around the shape of the room because it's not so much space, there are many books. The body is in the revelation, as is the floor and the wall and the books and the door. The body is being revealed in its movement, in its turning to negotiate its way out of the room. And the room is revealing itself moment by moment as I turn in order to go out. If we stay with the presence of open awareness, which has this flavor of non-duality, that is to say, not dividing inside and outside, self and other, there is a undivided clarity of disclosure. The field of experience is displaying. I am part of this. I am only made apart from it, separated from it, through reliance on concepts. And here there is a great paradox. My sense of myself as some isolated creature is a mental construction, an interpretation. And yet, these concepts have no other source than the open, empty radiance of the mind. So the imagining, which brings me to the sense of I am just me, is the same imagining that says this is a cup of coffee. It's the movement of an idea. These ideas move together, generating pattern after pattern after pattern. Within, in our limited sense, it operates within this frame of polarities, which we use to sort it out. Once you think this world is stuff, it's things, then you have to work out what kind of things they are. And so we rely on these polarities. So outside the window, I can see expensive, big new car and old, probably second-hand car, which leads me to think some people in the street have more money than others. And more thoughts and more thoughts can be brought in to elaborate the picture. What he's saying here is that all these aspects, which seem to be compositional factors, are themselves non-dual with uh, or unseparated from the actuality of the diversity of appearance. I make trouble for myself. This is why this Ji or this base is said to be the root of both samsara and nirvana. From the base, from our actuality, from the truth of how we are, this uncreated, uh, ungraspable, uncompounded presence, there arise in the manner of a dream, like a magical creation, both uh, awareness and non-awareness. The openness of the mind itself has no bias. It's not judging about sweet or sour, like or not like, nor is it saying that clarity is better than delusion. It's not a kind of hierarchy. Otherwise, we would be rushing to achieve more clarity. Both are available. And we know this. Mainly, we find ourselves in the path of unawareness. We are busy in our constructive activity. This is inseparable from the relaxed open ground. We haven't strayed, we haven't gone anywhere else, we haven't fallen out of heaven into hell. Okay, so we just sit for a little bit, sit with the skeleton carrying your weight. We do it with the gaze open. We're not staring at anything, but we're resting the gaze in space. And if we hear the echo of what we've just looked at, we allow everything to come and go. That includes sensation of the body, the conviction that I am here as an enduring self. Whenever there is a sensation or a thought that seems to confirm I'm here always, just me, don't merge into it. Don't stand apart from it as if it's something toxic. Don't try to remove it or change it. Simply stay relaxed and open, whatever arises. Okay. So when you're practicing by yourself, try to have a seamless movement between sitting and moving. Sometimes it's good to be very clear, now I'm sitting, now I'm not sitting. But actually the awareness present in sitting and the awareness present in moving and making a cup of tea is the same. When you're sitting, you're aware of thoughts, feelings, sensations coming and going. Experience is moving in the space of the mind. But when you stand up and you go to do different things, experiences moving in the space of awareness, different flavors of experience. But as he says in the first line, although there is infinite diversity of these experiences, they are actually, or as they are in themselves, inseparable from the open ground. Given that we live in a body, of course, hot and cold are different. If you make a coffee and it's very hot, you have to drink it very carefully. Otherwise, your mouth will be burned. Because what you take to be your body is a form of experience, it's a form of energy, and it has a patterning, which is its integrity. Its integrity is relational. It's not guaranteed by some internal essence. For example, if you drink the coffee quickly and you burn your lip, then for the next hour or so, your lip is going to be sensitive. Then the heightened sensation starts to fade. This is experience leads to experience leads to experience. There are no fixed entities. So you stay with this again and again in every situation. Then with the next two lines are concerned with the path. The path is how we come to be here. We are already here, but because we travel off in our thoughts and memories and plans, even when we are here, we believe we're not here. So he says here, what is known as it is untouched by thought. As it is referring to the unchanging open awareness. But this is not some kind of pure domain which is going to be spoiled by the arising of experience. The example of the mirror is filled with reflection. The reflection doesn't spoil the mirror, but also the reflection doesn't touch the mirror. Because we turn the mirror and new reflections arise. There is no trace of the previous reflection. So this is what this third line means, that your open awareness will not be damaged by any kind of experience. Say, for example, you have an accident and break your leg. You have some pain, you can't walk very well, you have a big plaster. You feel different. You don't feel happy. You might have thoughts, why did this happen to me? How could I be so stupid? Why did they behave like that and cause me to fall over? This is thought chasing thought. In a text like this, when it uses the word thought, it means also sensations, emotions, memories. It means all kinds of experiences. So I am upset that my leg is broken. I am experiencing these difficulties. Awareness is not. Awareness is simply showing it. I am aware of the pain in my leg. I'm aware it's difficult to walk. I'm aware of this formation of self-pity. This is all experience. On the basis of the pain, I think, poor me, how I suffer. These experiences are mutually influencing, but the clarity of the mind, which reveals what is occurring, is not touched by it. Should I be brave with my broken leg, or should I cry a lot and ask people to look after me? That will depend on how much of me the people around me can bear to experience. They will have a limited capacity to experience poor little Jimmy. At a certain point, they say, hey, get over it. Because our ego self is limitation. This is not something bad. It is a patterning of how our energy manifests. It is a quality of experience. And these patterns of experience are inseparable from the ground, but not definitive of the ground. Oh, the mirror shows beautiful images, ugly images, horrifying images. The mirror itself doesn't become horrifying when it's placed in front of some horrible image. This is why the ground or the base is described as Vajra. It is indestructible. Whatever occurs, it can show without being deeply affected. So, whenever you find yourself caught up in identification with thoughts and feelings and memories, don't take this as something bad. Simply stay present with what is occurring. So when you look in the mirror, you see the reflection. If you're very involved, you're looking at something on your face in the mirror, you're completely identified with the reflection. Without making a big change, you can just relax back a little and see, oh, this image is in the mirror is on the wall. It's a transient reflection, not a real entity. It doesn't have to be taken out of the mirror. It doesn't damage the mirror. And therefore, we can remain open. This is the true quality of equanimity. Equanimity is not something we should practice. It's not a quality to be developed. It's the clarity of seeing that everything arises like a dream, like a mirage, like a reflection in a mirror. It is what it is. That is to say, it is how it is. And this how it is, this current shaping of the image, the reflection, is inseparable from as it is, the truth or the actuality of the open awareness. So there's no need to go anywhere else. The messy thought and melange of feelings and sensation is always present in awareness. So open to it, relax with it. If you tilt in one direction, you identify with it and take it as definitional of some ego identity. In the other direction, you find it to be dangerous or harmful for you, and so you want to get rid of it. The instruction is always don't do anything, neither merging nor pushing away. Stay present and open. And through this, you find that you are actually the awareness of the ground. But as soon as you take up a position and try to, excuse me, go into a relation with what is happening, you become this limited consciousness, the dualizing process of mental elaboration. Okay, so we take a break now for half an hour and we're back at 12:05 English time. So now we go to the fourth line, which is saying that everything is radiance and everything is good. In the everything arises as nangwa. This means like light as appearance. And it also indicates experience. So we've touched on this before. We have no access to anything outside the mind. Our world is what arises for us. Even if you think of another planet and you imagine alien creatures living on that planet, you haven't left your own mind. We can imagine the center of the earth, we can imagine the distant limits of the universe. In the moment that we're in touch with this, it's our experience. We can experience through the senses. We also experience ideas. The idea is a moment of appearing in the bright field of awareness. If you enter into a cognitive interpretation of the idea, then you string together many different ideas and make a story. And then if you believe in that, it takes you away from your own presence. So you're thinking about thinking. For example, I subscribe to several journals which are concerned with detailed book reviews. Someone writes a book, then someone writes a review of the book, and I read the review of the book. The original book, I don't get in touch with. I'm thinking about the thoughts that someone has about someone else's thoughts. I'm like a little bird in the nest. The mother comes with a worm and she chews it a bit, and then I swallow this already digested food. So it might seem as if the real book is very far away, but I'm eating what I'm eating. I'm reading and getting a sense of something, and this is what I get. It's both, can go direct or indirect. If I receive what is written, it's something immediate, or else I can start thinking about it. If I don't think about it, what I get is the impact of what I'm reading and going through. This is like a massage. It softens the mind. It eases a space for new possibilities to arise. The possibilities are the possibilities of connecting with other people. As we looked yesterday, compassion is connectivity, wisdom is silent. So whatever we learn and whatever skills and knowledge we have, they manifest in our relationship with the environment around us. You could be concerned with agriculture or with trees or with building houses or teaching children. In every situation, you're communicating. The more we substantiate the field of our experience, the more we trust the actual contact of our immediate interaction. All the forms of manifestation are unobstructed. If somebody says something to me, as soon as they stop talking, their sound is gone. I might say to them, that doesn't make any sense to me. What is the that? That is what was said, and it's gone. So I'm now asking them, or I'm making a statement about a ghost, an echo. Their statement has already vanished. But I'm thinking about what they said. This is not true. I'm thinking about my sense of what I heard them saying. And that may well be different from what they thought they were saying. So you can spend a lot of time trying to sort that out. But they speak, oh yeah, then you say something. That is to say, it's not about taking things too seriously. The more thinking you do, the more you are in the realm of thinking. But when a thought arises and then vanishes, there is a clarity. Everything is complete as it is. The term for this is Kuntuzang, which is also the name of the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra. Everything is good. Everything is perfectly just what it is. If you have a broken leg, you have a broken leg. This is excellently broken leg. If you have a love story with someone and it goes bad, you have a broken heart. Well, this is a perfect broken heart. You cry. So why would you not cry? It is what it is. If you just stay present with it as it is, then you have the immediate vitality of the situation, and then something else happens. It's when we either pour ourselves more and more into the situation with a kind of hysterical intoxication. Or how could they leave me? We were so in love, but they've gone. So now you're adding a little bit too much chili powder to the stew. Stay with the hurt. You have the full flavor, and then it's gone. That is to say, sensations, feelings, thoughts are not wrong in themselves. In their immediacy, they give you themselves. The problem is the conceptual elaboration, where you make more of something. You don't stay with the simplicity of what is occurring. So these two lines are connected with the path. And in a sense, it's a application of the idea of not entering into judgment. Your life is composed of rhythms, sometimes expansive, sometimes contracting, sometimes very fast, sometimes slow. So if you just stay with this particular moment of the rhythm, then you're on the beat. When you're on the beat, then you're on time. You're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're not in an abstracted conceptual now, you're in the actual now. So in Dzogchen, everything is complete, means there is no lag, nothing to be added, nothing to be subtracted. Now, if I am going into town in a busy metro, in the underground, and if somebody stands on my foot, I don't need to let them stand on it for half an hour. I can have the full feeling of this crushing of my toes. This is a complete experience. And then I say, excuse me, could you move away from my foot? It's not about being a victim and trapped by circumstances. It's allowing it to be there. If I start to say to the person, how stupid can you be? I'm sure you knew you were standing on my foot. How dare you do this? This is not helpful. The situation is over. No real damage has been done, except the damage to my conceptual structure, my idea about how people should behave. What sort of a family are you from? Is this the way you were taught to behave? In this way, I give an X-ray of my own conceptual structure. I'm linking the pressure on my toe to an attack on Western civilization. This is terribly important. In the thoughts and the thoughts and the thoughts. This is why in the general teaching in Buddhism, we have a lot of confession, and we use Vajrasattva as a method of separating ourselves from these linked tendrils of blaming and other people's behavior and remorse for our own behavior. This moment is always vanishing. In Tibetan, they say, Rangsha Rangdrol, self-arising, self-liberating. It comes, and then it's gone. And if we are here, in the immediacy of clarity, we get it. There's nothing more to do with it, because it has gone. If you try to pursue the vanished thought, you enter the maze of conceptualization. And that is the very opposite of clarity. So we want to stay present in the moment. It is how it is, just this, not going after the past, not waiting expectantly for the future. When you read books on Dzogchen, they always say the same thing. This is not a complicated system. What is complicating is our own thought process, because we want something to do. The ego is hungry for an important position, and it finds that by inserting doubts and hesitancy and worry and anxiety. If we remember Garab Dorji's three key instructions, the first is open to how it is. The second is don't remain in doubt, don't take up a position, is it right, is it wrong, don't think about it. And the third point is just to continue in this way. So the texts often say, if you go to a land of gold, all you will find is gold. But you have the idea of silver, copper, lead, and so on. So here you are in the land of gold, but the thought comes, is there any silver here? Perhaps that's copper. You are disturbing yourself. Gold is gold. This means we are gold. The ground of our being is the clarity of awareness inseparable from emptiness. ungraspable emptiness, which manifests these fields of illusory appearance. What are these appearances? They are the appearances of the ground, as he pointed out in the first line of these 6 verses. That's what it is. It's gold. It's gold. So if you go picking at the gold in the hope that, or the fear that there is some silver or copper hidden inside, then you're in the realm of mental elaboration. Everything is the radiance of the ground. This is what it is, even though this shows itself in millions of different ways. The diversity, the multiplicity of the forms of appearance, including our sensations, memories, and so on, this indicates the richness of the potential of the ground. So much appears, and it's all the appearance of the ground. There is not one atom of self-existent entity anywhere to be found. Everything is clarity, whether it's a smell or a taste or a concept. It's this and this. So in Tibetan they talk a lot about clear light or vessel, and this really means invisible light. Light is shining everywhere. We don't see the light as light. We see the light when it touches the objects of the world. Embedded in the flow of the clear light is the potential for the 5 colors of light. And then, according to what they come in contact with, different colors are released. The clear light is in space, and the colored light is inside the clear light. So we see red and blue and green and so on. These have an impact on us. A quiet green, a strong red, they will affect your chakras in a different way. The one is energizing, the other is more calming. Whatever the flavor that emerges, it is the flavor of emptiness. If you don't stay with this, the thought arises, something has happened. What has happened? I need to know what has happened. And then it becomes more solid. This is the road to darkness, to obscuration, to consolidation. But actually, our life can be quite light and free. Even when you are sad, if sadness is arising in the open sky of awareness, without altering or antidoting the sadness, you remain relaxed and open. Sadness is coming, loneliness is coming, jealousy is coming. Come and they go. The problem arises when the thought comes, I don't want it. I want my life to be different. This shouldn't be happening to me. So this is the beginning of alienation. I'm not able to be present with life as it is because my image of myself feels insulted or defiled by this emergent experience. But my image of myself, my shape of myself is also an emergent moment. There is no fixed self. Each form that we call I, me, myself is also already vanishing. It arises within, it shows within, and it vanishes within. Within what? Within the inexpressible openness of awareness. The focus of Dzogchen practice, and we are on these 2 lines of the path, is to see the unchanging integrity of everything, the integrity of everything. that is to say, the whole, which is the meaning of Dzogchen, is never divided. It doesn't split into polarities. And yet within this infinite whole, there is infinite diversity. The diversity doesn't stand as separation from the whole. So whatever is arising in your life, however it is, stay relaxed and open, and it will pass. But if this congealing and densifying or thickening aspect of the ego self puts itself forward as the owner of the experience, then you have problems. You have lost your own ground. You have substituted the pseudo ground of the enduring self entity. But everything has the same source. There is no other factory creating ego entities. The sense of self-existing entities is delusion. Delusion arises from the ground. Why does it do this? It has no reason to do it. There is no doer. There is no God, no Big Papa, no creator with a divine plan. It arises as a happenstance, which, if you stay present, it is the bright clarity of the ground, which is your own pleasure. But when you go into your small imitation of God, I am the maker, I am the owner. This is the ego. It is my life. I'll lead it the way I want to. This assertion, it is my life, is a concept, a diluted concept. We find ourselves alive. When you're a small child, you gradually come to be aware of your body, and if you bang your head, it hurts, and so on. You become aware of other people. That is to say, you find yourself within a world that was there before you were born. It's true, you came out of your mother's body, but your mother's body was already in the world as part of the world. You're part of the world. And what he's been describing very clearly is this world is the radiance of the ungraspable awareness. The ego has no individuality, no separate identity. And we come to the last two lines, which are concerned with the result. It says, being intact, being undamaged, unharmed, we are free of the sickness of effort. Means intact here means that we are part of the whole. We are a flavor or a pattern of the emergence of the energy of the ground. Therefore, given that our ground is our empty awareness, we should rest in this ground and we follow the middle way. We are not the master of the situation, and we are not the victim of the situation. We are working with circumstances. And when you're working with circumstances, you're staying in the field of connectivity. The connectivity is intrinsic. You don't have to make effort to integrate. Everything is already integrated. What we have to do is to avoid the slippage of disintegration. So, when we're sitting in our meditation practice, when we move out of relaxed open awareness, this is very difficult to say in language. So how I began was not very helpful. It's not that we move out of awareness. Awareness is like the mirror. The movement is like the reflection in the mirror. The mirror doesn't move. So you sit in the practice, open, and suddenly you are movement. Something arises, and then there is a parallel movement. Something arises, it's taken as the object, it has an impact, pleasurable or unpleasurable, and so there is a reaction. I push it away or I pull it towards me. Who is the doer of this movement? This is a swirl of energy. There are no self existing entities. There is always and forever an absence of inherent existence. So it's not that I become distracted and go after a thought. That is a dualistic interpretation. Of course, it makes sense to us because we live most of the time in duality, unfortunately. But if you imagine your mind is open and a wave arises, followed by another wave. The waves go up and down, rolling along. The first wave is object side wave, second is subject side wave. These are waves of energy or manifestation of the open ground. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is always part of the ocean. Even if you shout at the waves, you are a wave, you are a wave, it's already vanishing as the ocean, because even as it arises, it's the ocean arising. The wave is how the ocean shows itself. So when we sit in the practice, truly distraction is impossible. Arising and passing, that's all. If awareness doesn't move, it sees movement or reveals movement, and awareness cannot move. There is movement which is moving. The ego self is a movement, and movement's always dissolving. So often when we meet together and we do the teaching, I reflect on the fact that since we woke up this morning, we had many, many experiences that through our interaction with the various factors around us, we form and reform, we are reconstituted by interaction. None of these specific forms is the real truth or the final definition of who we are. I am not a thing. I am a pulsation of responsivity within the field of responsivity, a wave in the ever shifting pattern of wave movement. So when we see that the wave is part of the ocean, wave and ocean integral, this awareness is intact, not torn, not damaged, not altered. With this, we are free of the sickness of effort. Something must be done. I will change the situation. This is energy moving with energy, like experiencing a dream. We cannot say it's not happening because it's experience. And yet it's not real. Real indicates thingness, something existing in and of itself. Nowhere will you find anything which is real, but you find a ceaseless display of the diversity of the energy of the ground. Therefore, when you feel this urge to do something, to change something, when this is energy flowing in the field of energy, it's not a problem. Waves of water are moving around, but I think something is wrong. This judgment freezes the situation. Now, on these waves of movement, there is a block of object ice moving. And in response to it, now there's arising a block of subject ice. This person, this man, I'm going to do something. So this is the disease of effort. The ice is frozen water. Life is flow. The freezing is death. That's why in your kitchen you have a freezer, because you can keep dead things inside it. fish or something doesn't move, doesn't change. So then he says, the last line, spontaneously abiding, and so everything is settled. Spontaneous means nobody doing it, neither God, nor the devil, nor the ego. It just is. This is mysterious. It cannot be expressed. Because in language and in conceptual thought, we are always thinking of a subject, a verb, and an object. Someone doing something to some entity. But this is a solidified view, an alienated, reified view. So when we sit, we breathe out, or sometimes we do the Guru Yoga of the white R, and then here, just here, settled. This doesn't mean frozen. Movement is continuous, but awareness is settled. Because awareness illuminates object side and subject side. Part of the energy of the ground is the flavor of identification. This doesn't establish anything as a true identity, but if energy was just sloshing around this way and that way, it would be chaos. And we find ourselves in a world of patterns. Energy flows in different patterns, the pattern of life for a bird or a fish or a cow or a human. So we will come to an end in about 25 minutes, and then our lives move on. Each of us, according to our situation, will do different things. This will have to do with the object situation and the subject situation. Say you want to get a drink of water. You get up and go to the kitchen. Who is you referring to? Some fixed essence, your open awareness, or this particular patterning of energy? So if this was a television quiz program, if you want to win the 100,000 euros, you have to choose number 3. I, who go to the kitchen, am energy flowing to the kitchen. I am going to the kitchen, but nobody is going to the kitchen. Because each movement in the progression towards the kitchen is itself complete. This is the important thing to know. We are the radiance of awareness. Awareness itself doesn't move, but the radiance is always moving. Well, in Tibetan, this is called a Rigpitsal. Well, it means that like rays shooting out from awareness. So sometimes awareness, Rigpa, is compared to the sun in the sky. It's inseparable from space. From it, rays spread out, rays of light, which illuminate everything. But they also have, from the ray, we get heat. This energy is impactful. It allows the plants to grow and us to thrive in the world. We, as our embodied self, are the flow of the energy of awareness. We're not nothing at all, but on the other side, we're not something fixed and defined. We are energy participating in the field of the flow of energy. When you look for your own mind to see if it is like something you know, we don't find something. Although you can weigh a brain and do cross sections of it and scans and so on. And we can do this because the brain is a thing in the world, like a liver or a heart. The mind, which can illuminate all the knowledge which is available about the brain, this is not a thing. It doesn't have a color or a shape. You can't establish it as big or small or inside your body or outside your body. When it arises, we can't find where it came from. When it's present, we're not sure where it is. If it seems to vanish, we don't know where it goes. It is not like anything things have shape and color and density and so on, but awareness does not. So to be settled as awareness is not to be settled on an island in a castle where the waves are kept outside. Yesterday we were looking at the formulation in the Heart Sutra, and form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And there we can see that emptiness is not other than form. There's not that there are two different things. In the same way, the stillness of awareness and what is arising are not two different things. The illumination is the illumination within the field of awareness. So, settled in unchanging awareness, this offers no opposition or manipulation to the patterns of energy. So, you're meditating, we meditate with our eyes open, we have the field of clarity, and inside this there are objects. If you have a cat, it's going to be moving around. We hear sounds from outside. We're sitting as part of the field of clarity, and the awareness itself is open and empty and ungraspable. And then as you get up from the meditation, this formation of energy is moving in the field of energy. And if you start to talk with someone, how you speak impacts them, how they speak impacts you. Just like waves flowing into other waves. Now, of course, you can grasp the situation and formulate a statement to the other person in terms of self-reference. I was upset when you said that to me. This is getting a little bit solid. You are here, the other person says something, the sound waves come in your ear, out of your mouth comes, ouch. That's enough. Because if you say, you hurt me, you upset me, you exist and you are a useless kind of existence. Now I've started, I'll continue. Now I have started. You're selfish, lazy, cruel. You never clean the shower. You don't help me in the kitchen. I am just beginning. I'm getting warm now. So now this is samsara. You are real, I am real, and this connection between us is intense and tangled. So the instruction is always don't enter into judgment. You're not a zombie. You feel the impact. Ouch. But we don't need to conceptualize it. Movement of energy. Once you start building up the story, the space thickens and becomes sticky. And now you're together in this bad mood. Neither of you trusts the other. This is produced by excessive mental energy. The wave of the moment arises like this and gone. Your response arises and gone. Gone is gone. If you grasp the echo and layer it with conceptualization, you get washed up on an island of separation. Now you are apart from what is occurring. And then you have to try to work it out. We have to talk about what happened. This again makes some kind of fear or anxiety and stumbling and confusion. So that's why he's saying it's settled. Each moment settles by itself. But if you take the stick of the ego and stick it in and stir it around, it will not settle. But the reason I do that is because I am concerned about truth and justice. It's not right that you should do that. So this is very tempting, but it takes us into desolation and confusion. Liberation rests in resting in what is already there, in the intrinsic. The next moment is occurring. The ground is never changing, always pure, raw, fresh, ungraspable. This is the basis of our mind. In Tibetan is called kada, primordial purity. It means it has never had any scratch or stain or mark. This is the ground of our presence. You say something that upsets me, your nasty word got to me, but it didn't get to kada, to primordial purity. This word presence we use to refer to being present in unborn openness and being present in part of the luminous display, and also being present in this apparitional form, moving as energy in energy. These are the three flavors of presence. If we allow them to be forever integral, forever unseparated, undifferentiated, then whatever happens is simply a wave of energy passing through. It's not that if you say, James, you're horrible, that I should be completely Teflon and untouched. On the other hand, there's no need to feel, oh my God, I've fucked everything up, it's terrible. What you say is a pulse. I receive the pulse and I respond in a pulse. The ego builds pulsations. It pours petrol on the fire. Awareness is here. So whether we're sitting or we're walking about being with other people, the central advice is don't go after past thoughts, don't wait expectantly for future thoughts. You're upset with me, I can apologize, let it go. You think I've done something bad, maybe I don't think I've done something bad. If I fight my corner, if I say, hey, this is not fair, this is not right, who is fighting? This is a ghost. Let it go. Moment by moment, the world is open, fresh, building up grievances. You have to have some box or some pocket to put them in to keep them. This is the skin bag of the self. And it only appears as a skin bag by delusion. I think I'm a thing, and I remember all the things you have said to me. But this I is a wave in the ocean. It has no authentic separation, no autonomy. So we always have freedom, freedom to relax and open and be present, or freedom to build a new prison for ourselves. This is available moment by moment. The more you choose freedom and taste freedom and see that freedom is intrinsic and not something which is made, then the effort of building a prison seems more and more ridiculous. And so we don't stay in prison. We don't act to imprison other beings, nor do we enter into the prisons created by others. Under all conditions, at all times, we find our freedom. So this is a very beautiful short text. It points us to the immediacy of the liberation of ourselves, and we're liberated into participation. Open, part of the field, and active participation in the movement of the energy of the field. So I hope that what we've covered in this day and a half is useful to you. With regard to what we did yesterday, there is a text up on the website called The Healing Power of Emptiness. So I think that might be useful for you to read. And apart from that, our time comes to an end. So thank you to Mariana and Milton for translating, and to Pedro and Joao for organizing in the background, and to everyone for participating. Together we form our strange invisible Sangha. Some people choose to join a discussion group and connect in that way. For other people, they just do their practice. when we do the practice, we find ourselves in the open infinity, and within that we are always connected. So this is the end. Goodbye. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, James. It's amazing.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, El.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Fantastic.
Todos, gracias a todos.
Grazie a tutti.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Obrigada.
Bye.